We bring it in. Everybody sit down, take a seat, please. We'll get this started.
Let's get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the December 4th, 2012 Board of Selectmen meeting. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, some announcements. There are openings on the following committees: Carver Cultural Council, Commission on Disability, the BDC, the Finance Committee, Old Colony Regional Vote Tech School Committee, there's 2 positions there, Local Housing Partnership Committee, Carver Housing Authority, a state representative, and a growers representative to the Earth Removal Committee. Please contact the Selectmen's office for an application, and a reminder to residents that you know, we still have some difficult times ahead for some of our citizens. Christmas is coming. Everybody did a wonderful job for Thanksgiving. All the feedback I'm getting from some of the organizations we deal with that, you know, our push and our drive to get everybody to come out and be as generous as they can paid huge dividends. So please try and dig in for Christmas too. There's still a lot of needy people out there. The collection points, of course, are here in Town Hall. And Council on Aging and the library, Jane? Okay. And plus, I know Mrs. Padavani had something going with Shaw's down there that was extremely successful, and we want to get some recognition for the managers and the employees down there who did a swell job. So please continue to provide whatever assistance you can, share and take care of your neighbors, and God bless all of you. Appointments with possible votes. We have a rescheduled hearing here at 7:10 p.m. for Landmark Auto Sales, a request for 3-vehicle Class 2 Internet only license to be located at 38 R1 North Main Street, Carver, Mass. And there will be no display of vehicles on this location. So we've got a couple minutes, but do we have the parties here? Yeah. Okay. You want to come on up to the mic and please identify yourself and tell us why you're here.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Carmen Olongi from the Landmark Center here in Carver. I'm looking to open up a small auto sales facility over there at the property. Strictly a non-display, internet only, just 3 cars. There to be 0 repairs made on the facility. Strictly sales only.
All right, can we get a vote by the board? I mean, a motion by the board.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
A second, so we can open this for discussion. We have a motion and a second, Gene. So it's now open for discussion. Anybody have any questions, comments, issues that they would like to address concerning this proposal?
Don't we have to wait till 7:10 to talk about it?
Doesn't that say 7:10 up there now? I think that clock is 4 minutes slow.
Oh, okay. Is it?
It is a little.
Oh, it is.
By the time anybody wants to speak and they get up to the mic, it's going to be 7:10, so.
Okay, cool.
You're giving me an evil eye, Gene. Please come in, have a seat, join us. The more the merrier. Did you bring your boxing gloves? All right, well, there's nobody from the board that has any questions on this? or-
It's just that it's strictly on the internet. This is
Yeah.
really the first of its kind in Carver.
No, it's not, that's not true, Jack. Yeah, there was one other one that did the same thing. I think it was Pierce, wasn't it, on
Yeah,
Meadow
you do
Street?
actually have one also, right now, I forget the name of it, that is in the Vaughan Estates Development, too, that's internet only, also no display.
Okay,
Through the chair, may I say one other thing? I believe the law does state, even though you are just doing internet only, you do have to let us know on where the cars will be repaired. 'Cause
Absolutely. I also brought a blueprint of the complex over here with me today, and got it laid out where I intend to park the vehicles.
That was going to be my question.
Would you like to pass this around? Sure. Thank you.
So the vehicles will be parked
They're
here
gonna
in
be
Carver?
stored, so you
Stored.
plan on storing 3 vehicles?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
So, if I may,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair,
Go
so
ahead.
by no display, you mean,
There will be no street display.
okay.
They'll be strictly stored in the facility.
Seals.
Again, like I said, you're just gonna take photos and place them on the internet. You know, today everybody has access to the internet, and they all shop around online to get the best deal they can. So, displaying the vehicles is no longer necessary.
Yeah, this is another-
But they'll be stored on your premises?
Sensitive microphone, huh? Sorry.
Thank you. And those are pre-existing parking slots?
Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions from members of the board? This is a public hearing, so if anybody,
I have one more, actually, and I don't know if it's relevant. Is that going to interfere with the parking for any of the rest of the
No, it's not.
businesses?
We just recently connected the Carver School Music Building and the garage in the back, probably, I think it was last year or the year before. And we dedicated 2 parking spots for each unit, so there's 4 parking spots there, and I believe there's 8 or 9 parking spots there on the property, dedicated for that area, as well as a handicap parking spot.
Then, you said they weren't gonna be for display.
That's correct, yep.
They are kinda close to the street, so you could almost see them
They're
as
actually
if they
facing
were
the-
on display.
Yeah, they actually are facing the opposite way, against the road of the street. You know, somebody would really have to be looking for it in order to see it. It's not gonna interfere with anything by any means.
the other thing, Jack, is I think that Mr. Hurley, his lot is right next door, so you're not gonna really, do you know what I'm saying? He's got cars out there and everything,
Yeah.
right next to that, so it's not gonna look like it's out of place, I don't think.
He's more in front. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah, also though, again, with the slope of the property, it's also down below as well. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but it is not anywhere near the street.
Right,
Oh, you mean it goes down?
yeah.
Yeah,
There used to be a collection center in the back there,
yep,
and it's pretty much screened from the road back there.
that's
yeah.
correct, yeah.
Yeah. Dick, you had a question?
Just, Gene, no tax implications here? Anything like that? We're all clear?
Board, we'll check on that.
We'll check
before
that.
any licenses is released,
Okay.
as well as
Thank you.
the questions on where the vehicles will be repaired, as well as receiving the bond that's
Okay.
required by law. So,
Carmen, all the taxes up to date and everything?
That's correct, yep.
Okay,
Good.
I'm good.
Sarah? Ellen? Good. Sarah?
I'm all set, thank you.
Jack?
I'm all set.
I'd like to open it up to the public at this time, if there's anybody that has any questions concerning this issue.
No, I'm all set.
Anybody impacted by this that has a comment, point of view, or would like to say something? Seeing none and hearing none, we have a motion and a second to approve this request. And if there are no further comments, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carmen, it's unanimous. Good luck. We wish you the best of luck, okay?
Currently a realtor now for Coldwell Bank, we also see the real estate market.
Multi-talented.
care.
That's it.
Leave some cards around. You never know. Okay. Good luck. All right, the next item up was the December special town meeting warrant article recommendations. However, Mr. Johnson, the chairman of the Water Commission, is tied up at another board meeting right now and will be here at 8 o'clock. So he asked me if we could try to
Postpone it. to-
postpone this until he can get here.
Yeah, I would just say that there's only really one article on that warrant that impacts that, so if, I know it's early, and I know all the members of the finance committee aren't even here yet,
Right.
so, but if you had the opportunity to at least get through most of that, at the, you know, because that's only impacts one article, but just.
Well, you want to
as
do
a-
everything else and we can put that on hold?
I think that would be good,
Excellent idea, Rick.
and,
That's why we pay you the big bucks.
well, you know how it is.
We can
All right.
do-
December special town meeting warrant article recommendations, jointly with the Finance Committee, if we can round them up. Scott? Judy?
Peg? I was gonna say, I thought,
Yeah. He's not here?
yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, it's 7:25, it's on the schedule for 7:25 too, so I mean,
Can we do some other business?
Do the other little stuff.
what's the matter, Helen?
Do the other little stuff.
Yeah? What about the tax classification hearing?
We can't do that, that's advertised
Till we
as a
get-
public hearing.
How about the other items?
The other
Yeah.
items.
Tiki
All
Kai.
right, we'll move on to other items and possible votes. Request for a tiki kai for an extension of hours for New Year's Eve. This is pretty standard every year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's now open for discussion. Any issues?
No,
Jean?
not at all.
Rick?
No.
Nothing? Okay. Hearing that, any questions, comments by the board? Hearing none, then. All those in favor of approving the tiki kai extension of hours, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Gene. Okay, one-day special license request for St. John Baptist Club for December 15th, 2012. And this is going to get a little tricky because I know that at least three of us have been invited to this thing. So I don't know
So
if
are
we
the rule of necessity,
we could,
or is it really?
Well, I don't, no, but.
I mean, it's a social event, but there's going
Yeah.
to be three of us there, so I don't want anybody to think that it's a fundraiser or a political event. So
I make a motion, we approve their request.
Second.
I'm not gonna recuse myself at this point.
No, there was no reason for you to recuse yourself from it, but there's three of us that are
Yeah,
going there.
yeah, is,
That's the
You're not
problem.
is there,
benefiting.
People can construe out of things anything
yeah,
that they
yeah, well,
want, so.
that's part of the ethics law.
Right, to alleviate any concerns, what I would say is let's just invoke the rule of necessity, because we can't get a quorum otherwise.
And now what do we have to do? Do we have to state?
Yeah, you should take a vote to do that specifically, right?
So what do we do?
And, well, I'm not a lawyer, Mr.
Yeah.
Vice Chairman, but I
Yeah.
think if everybody just stated their own specific reason for doing so, and then you take a vote, and keep it
Yeah, I'm part of the party, so.
part of the party.
I wanted to have a Christmas party for,
I want to know why the rest of the town wasn't invited.
They may be, all the invitations haven't gone out, my
depends on how
understanding.
nice you
kidding.
are. We can only invite up to 75 people, or
Just kidding.
Craig Weston will be down.
But if you'd like to make a motion, Helen, we can certainly do that about the rule of necessity, so that we can then take a vote by
Okay,
the complete
if
board.
that's proper, I'll make a motion to invoke the rule of necessity, so we can
All participate.
all participate in the approval of a special license at the St. John's Club on December 15th.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment, Sarah, Dick, anything on that?
I was just looking at the rule of necessity. May only be used when elected boards is legally required to act on the matter. We have to act on this matter.
Right,
Yeah.
Yes.
we have to
Okay.
approve the license, so,
Second the motion,
okay.
if you haven't.
All right, Sarah, you have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing no further discussion on it. We have a motion and a second to invoke the rule of necessity so that we can vote on the matter. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Now, we want to take a vote on approving the one-day special license request for St. John Baptist Club.
I make the motion that we approve the one-day special license.
We have a motion?
I seconded it
Do we
again.
have a second? Do we have any further discussion on it? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. It's unanimous. Great job, man.
That's probably gonna be the biggest discussion item.
Let's hope that's the longest discussion tonight,
Put
huh?
the challenge out to the chairman
Yeah.
before the meeting. Let's,
Okay. Swearing in of committee members, discussion and possible vote.
Mr. Chairman? may-
Yes, sir.
I would just say, as you know, the last meeting, Mr. Fortier had raised his concerns about that. We don't have anything to vote on.
Okay?
The board it was suggested that this be put on the agenda for the next meeting, so it doesn't have any form to it at this point. So the only thing I would suggest is perhaps you either ask me or me and a member of the board to put together some draft policy statement that you might want to review and approve at another meeting, because I don't know what else you can do right now, because there's not a lot of form to what it was
Right.
discussed to how to put it on the agenda.
And I thought that's what we were basically looking at last time we discussed it, that we would put some kind of a policy together, you know, and just, let's get everybody sworn in for everything that they're on, then there's no questions, ifs, ands, or buts, about the legitimacy or the legality of what's transpiring, so.
So if,
agreement,
if,
Dick?
if it's that simple, I would be happy to put together some
Sure.
quick policy statement for a future meeting for you to.
Doesn't have to be extensive, Rick,
You can-
something short and sweet, like the citizens' participation, and maybe even shorter.
I might speak a lot, but I don't write that, I write more concisely than that, so we'll try to keep it quick for you.
Well, I'm all in favor of that, so what should we do, just table this?
Table it to the next
I
meeting.
make a
and,
motion, we
um,
table it till the next
That
meeting.
time, we'll have a
Second that
policy for
motion.
you.
Is that enough time for you with what's going on with the holidays and everything?
You wanna
we
do
can
it
pull that
after the
off.
first of the year?
When's the next meeting?
If
The
not-
18th?
Yeah.
If not, I'll just run it past you or Jack if it's
Okay,
worthwhile to put
all right,
off.
well, let's tentatively schedule it for the next
That's fine.
meeting.
Okay,
And if it doesn't make it at that one, the world won't come to an end, and,
didn't think so.
you know, Santa Claus will still deliver me my stocking full of coal, and
Be
life
good,
will go on.
be good to set something in
Yeah.
place
I
by
I
the
think, you
first
know-
of the year.
Future boards, future committees, and everything else, you know.
Very good.
All right, why don't we take a look at the minutes of November 13th, 2012? Has everybody had an opportunity to review these?
Yeah, and I sent Jean, gave Jean my apologies. I had a few things, and I just didn't get them to her on time.
Okay.
So we could maybe put it off one more
Absolutely.
week.
I make a
2
motion, we
weeks.
put it off till the next meeting, the approval of the minutes.
We have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of tabling this till the next meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. All right. Power purchase agreement with no fossil fuels. Front and center.
For
Here they come.
You guys are on. Who are we missing? Any players?
we're missing the town's party on this.
Oh.
Let me run downstairs and get Mr. Hunter. Unless you, well, 'cause, yeah, when we have a 7:25 with the FinCom, maybe if you wanted to.
You want to hold off until that? All right, let's
Let our
go on with,
parties- let our-
And-
Yeah, let our parties do it,
And
assemble.
I could just ask one quick question. Do we have the latest update in the
Yeah.
agreement?
Yes, you have it
okay.
packet.
Because I had one that I received via email,
Right.
and now I'm seeing something.
Right, and that's why it would be good,
So this is the most recent one?
yes, to have Mr. Holland here, only so that there's no concerns by the board as to what the latest amendments and changes were. So if you wanted to go through the warrant, short of anything that you wanted to wait for Mr. Johnson for, we could at least get that done.
Start that at 7:25?
Yeah,
Wasn't there,
Maybe there's a majority of the finance committee
chopping at the
together
bit
now.
over
there
there.
is,
Okay.
Works for me.
wasn't there an update today, Rick? Do we have that in our packets?
On what, the PPA?
Yeah.
Yes, that's, I believe that's what the document Sarah just held up, Jack.
Yeah.
Hunter had some
Yeah.
final amendments.
Because the
Oh, I
one we
don't
got
think
by
I got one.
email was an older one.
Oh,
I don't
perfect,
think I got
Okay,
that.
thank you.
excellent.
Look in your thick one.
No, I had this at home.
His brother-in-law.
I took it Friday home with
Okay,
whose
so this is
brother-in-law?
all.
me. Oh, it might be in the car.
Brother
I
in
think
the
it came in
field of
today.
law.
Oh.
Mr. Clavens, I'm sorry.
He's, Hurricane, Mayor O'Donnell's attorney.
You know, I don't know either one of them, so I have, is that Mary's attorney?
Yes,
Okay. Who's the gentleman in the suit over here?
that's our health
That's Ed
consultant.
Burns.
Mr.
Yeah, he's,
Hello, Mr. Burns.
We'll have to do it, we'll do
Hi,
it,
Ed.
we'll do introductions, at a later time. Awful lot of suits tonight, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
there is, there is. You know, it's difficult to get back into the flow of things, you know what I mean?
Means
I've been sitting on a beach for a week.
usually means it's expensive night when there's a lot of suits around, but.
So are we gonna do the special town meeting now?
Sure.
We can?
We can, I don't think it'll take too long,
All right.
with the exception of the solar.
December special town meeting warrant article recommendations jointly with the Finance Committee. Let's rock and roll.
Okay.
So we can get some progress.
Oh, is that what you have to do as one of your duties, is carry around?
Yeah,
the-
apparently I carry this in my car all the time.
Yeah.
Scott, where's your nameplate? Got it? Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome the members of the Finance Committee to our meeting this evening, our joint meeting on the special town meeting warrant. Okay,
Excuse me, can I call the Finance Committee meeting to order?
you certainly can.
All protocol. I'd like to call the order, the December 4th meeting of the Finance Committee, in a joint session with the Board of Selectmen.
You guys are gonna have to speak into the mic so that the people at home can hear you. It's gonna be Okay, we ready to go, folks? All right, Article 1, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds the specified sum of money to pay the following unpaid bills under the provisions of Chapter 4464, or take any other action relative thereto. Finance Committee, how say you?
Well, I've got some questions.
You do?
Yes.
I hope we have some answers for you.
Rick does, I'm sure. I have confidence that Rick does.
Through you, Mr. Chair. My question has to do with the funding mechanism for paying these bills. What have you chosen?
Well, I haven't written the motions yet, but barring anything, I would presume free cash or overlay surplus.
And these bills all pertain to the 2012 fiscal year, is that correct?
Correct.
And are there any other bills outstanding that we know of with Norfolk Grammar, OCE, and Logistics?
None that we've been informed
Right,
of.
no.
Okay.
This should do it.
I have a question. What is this bill for 24781 for?
I'm sorry.
It doesn't say. It's the copier for the assessors department.
Yes,
It's the photocopier.
photocopy bill.
Thank you.
I have a question, Rick. It seems like every year at special town meeting, we're spending about the same amount of money for Norfolk Ram. Why is that never included in their budget, or in a budget for that specifically?
I think part of the issue here is really timing of getting bills in as opposed to available funds in the budget. I know in some years we have gone over in that account, and the primary reason for that is because despite all the best laid plans, you know, some of the bills, what Norfolk Ram is you know, is dealing with primarily is our landfill. So anytime there's a test that draws some sort of attention or a hit of some sort by DEP, we're required to do additional testing. So it's a little hard to budget exactly for it because it's not completely up to the town or Norfolk Ram as to what the amount of testing and certifications that have to be performed. So.
Okay, thank you.
Rick, I was to make a motion to approve, but shouldn't we identify the funding source when we make a motion to approve?
If you'd like to, I mean, one of the things that, later on in the warrant, there's the fire department, pumper truck, they did not get that grant, unfortunately. We
Yeah.
recently found out, so some of the money that we had thought might be taken up by free cash is not going to be. So for the sake of administrative ease, I think for these kind of numbers, free cash would seem to be the best approach to.
Okay,
in my-
so I'll make a motion that we approve using free cash.
If I may, Rick, didn't you also say, or it could be overlay surplus?
Right, but I think in the end, it's all the same to me. I
Okay.
mean, so I would think free cash is the easiest approach.
Second.
Okay,
And I haven't asked Ellen Blanchard for the latest numbers on available overlay surplus.
I thought the overlay surplus was gonna be used for those, for that abatement and the interest that related to it, but I didn't know we were gonna use it for anything else. Want us to just motion to approve, and then we can put in the funding source afterwards?
You could, but again, free cash is what I had presumed all these would
Okay.
come from.
All right,
Again, we're not talking about a lot of money here. when
Yeah.
All is said and done.
okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second by the board, but first, let's see if there's any other questions by the board members. Dick, do you have anything on that? Helen?
We went through it
Okay.
a few weeks ago.
Then we'll flip it back to the FinCom and see if we can get a vote from you guys. And
Do I have a motion to approve
So
Article
moved.
1 as written?
So moved.
I have a second. Any other further questions? No further questions? All those in favor of approving Article 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-0.
And from the Board of Selectmen, there was a motion to approve with the caveat that it be designated free cash, I guess, and it was seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the article as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, Gene. Okay. Do we want to flip to Article 4? See if Mr. Johnson makes it here in time, or... Oh, I'm sorry,
Article 2.
Three. Oh, no.
no, those are all
Five.
Water District, aren't they?
Oh,
How about five?
Sure.
Yeah.
Article 5 for Cranberry Village.
Yes,
But-
and effectively, though, that's still,
That's still not,
Yeah.
because as you know, North Carver Water District is contracted to run these facilities for us.
Article 6, you're saying that that is a moot article at this point,
Yes,
Rick?
the chief would be withdrawing this on town meeting floor.
On town meeting floor? Okay, so... Everybody following that, the grant, that we did not get the grant, unfortunately, so that would have been a nice deal. That was
Yes.
a big chunk of change, so. How about Article 7, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds a sum of $100,000 for the purpose of satisfying a court judgment in the case of Raymond Oil versus the town of Carver, or take any other action relative thereto.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, as we know with court judgments, that those amounts have been paid pursuant to law. Generally, these amounts are put on the recap sheet and raised in future years. However, just from purely a budgeting standpoint, it makes sense for us to, get rid of this obligation right away, because we have a town meeting coming up. So it's one of those interesting points where it's more of a bookkeeping, where we paying it from, as opposed to whether or not we have to pay it, and it's already been paid. So, not sure there's a lot of option here, unless somebody has a good question about the mechanism. We had presumed that this would be a transfer from free cash.
FinCom, do you want to make a motion in second so you can open it for discussion if you have any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Article 7. Second. We have a second. Any other further questions? Anyone? Okay, I guess I have some questions with regards to this court judgment we knew about for a while now, haven't we, that was lingering out there? My question is to why wasn't it part of the 2013 fiscal budget as a proposed possible payout? And if it wasn't, rather than hit free cash for this, should we be looking at reducing our operating budget by $100,000?
Well, in theory, you could do that. The problem is that this town meeting coming up doesn't afford us the opportunity to do that. But in theory, the town could reduce either increase its proposed estimated receipts for the existing fiscal year. That would provide enough room within the tax recap to pay it, because court judgments are paid with or without town meeting approval. Court judgments have to be paid, obviously. So there's different mechanisms for paying it. The other could be, obviously, to reduce other budgets, but we don't have the mechanism to do that because the town meeting doesn't contemplate readjusting budgets. So our goal was just to relieve ourselves of the obligation as soon as possible, rather than bring it into next fiscal year. Because
But at town meeting, Rick, we always, reclass costs between line items.
right, but we don't have a warrant article to do that. at this
this
coming
town
town meeting.
This one.
So we'd have to wait to a future town meeting, if, you know, which we could do, but,
Okay.
again, the item's already been paid because it had to be. This is really a matter of balancing the books here, so,
So you're recommending that this $100,000 come from free cash as well?
correct.
And how much do we have in free
We have
cash
a-
has been certified?
Somewhat over $700,000.
Before this is paid?
Correct.
I guess my only opposition is hitting free cash with this. I'd rather see it, take a hard look at the operating budget 5 months into it, where could we cut expenses versus hitting free cash for this? That'll be my only hesitation.
Well, I think we could do that, but we'd have to do it at a later town meeting. And again, if that's what the will of people, I mean, keep in mind, one of the things that we know we'll have money is some short-term interest that we had put aside in the event that we had to provide some subsidy to the North Carver Water District. As you probably know, or we're certainly gonna hear tonight, that's not gonna be necessary. So we do know there are some areas in the operating budget that do have some availability. Of course, it's really a matter of, it's a shell game. Those funds would be available later on for other transfers or, so it's really a matter of preference. That's all it is. And of course, the later you get in the fiscal year, the more difficult it is to find, you know, available funds. So if you'd like to do that, that's fine. It's not something that I think any of us worth having a debate over. On the other hand, this is an attempt just to get the books balanced as early as possible and relieve us of the burden. So whatever the will is, we'll certainly.
Is this
provide
something you want to address in the next budget hearings, John? Is that,
I would prefer to see it addressed at a later date, after taking a hard look at the budget to find out where there are other savings.
okay.
And honestly, if that's the way you'd like to pursue, we can just withdraw it from town meeting. I don't think there's worth having any type of prolonged discussion over, because if that's the preference, I'm happy to work with John to find a way to accomplish that.
It still needs, it's already been paid, and it still needs to be put on the recap. And now that we're having a special town meeting, we're very much aware of it, and we do have the funds to fund it, we should fund it. Generally, what happens in most towns is when you have a legal settlement like that, of that nature, it does go on the recap, and you gotta find a way
Right.
to fund
You
it by
find the
increasing
revenue
your
sources, right.
receipts or what have you. But now we have the benefit of having a free cash figure.
True.
You know, I don't know, my concern is to make sure that that tax rate gets approved and it gets sent out. If the DOR questions our wisdom when we had a special town meeting to settle all of this stuff, they might not approve it. My main concern is to get those tax bills out. I'd rather stay with our strategy and fund it on the free cash.
It's a very valid point, Jack, and,
Yeah. I
again,
think the concern was that we knew about it last year and it wasn't addressed through the budgets at that time. I think that's the point that's being made, so.
Absolutely.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I don't have a lot of thoughts on this, except that usually you don't use budgets to fund one-time expenses. I mean, there's a generally
that's true,
recurring.
yeah. Like I say, a lot of this is form over substance.
Right.
And I hate to fight over form when the substance it doesn't change, so my druthers would be do what Jack suggests, but once again, I don't wanna have a 2-hour debate at town meeting about form, that's all. So it's whatever you prefer. Again, I certainly agree with Mr. Franny's assessment of.
When did the judgment come in, do you remember?
I don't remember,
Yeah.
Jack, I don't remember.
2 years ago.
But at
And again,
at this point in time,
if there was no
We still
question
have-
about, if there was absolutely no question about our ability to justify enough receipts for the current fiscal year to cover this, it wouldn't even be on town meeting. It wouldn't even be an issue, because town meeting in effect doesn't have the ability to determine whether or not to pay it. The only question here is what's the source to fund the payment, that's all. What's done is done.
Can you live with that, Mr. Connor?
Well, I don't want to speak for my committee, we really haven't gone over this. But my feeling still would be to look at an alternative measure of the free cash, but that's just my opinion.
Now, it's not out of the question that when we sit down in a couple of weeks, Jack and I and Ellen and to complete discussions on the recap, that we feel comfortable that there's enough revenue in the system to warrant covering the revenue without any appropriation whatsoever necessary further on. So that's a very viable option too. So you may never see this again. But like I said, a lot of discussion over form, and as much as you try to avoid those, it seems like that's where you end up.
And Jack, your recommendation is to go ahead and move forward with this?
Yes.
Because so
I
we
don't
can-
wanna, I don't run the risk of having them raise any questions and then we can't get the bills out.
Okay. Mr. Wood?
No, I just prefer to pay it and get it done, finished.
Ellen?
There.
Ellen, you agree with that assessment? Okay. FinCom, if you could take a vote, please.
Do we have a motion to approve Article 7? We have second. All those in favor of approving Article 7 as written, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
What do I have? 3 to 1?
3 to 1.
Or 1 to 3.
Sorry, 1 to 3.
All right, Board of Selectmen, do we have a motion to approve?
Make that motion.
Second?
And we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the issue? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the article as is, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous from the Board of Selectmen. And we will address the concerns, John.
Thank you.
I just want to back up a second on Article 6. I know it's going to be withdrawn on town meeting floor, but do we have to take a formal vote on that tonight?
No, I think the fire chief was planning on as the proponent.
So we don't need to table it or anything?
You don't need to do
Okay,
anything.
all right. I noticed that we have Mr. Johnson joining us at this point in time. Paul, I'm glad you made it. We can zip through these financial articles here. Want to identify yourselves for the people at home that don't know you, Paul? I'm sure there's only a handful, but,
Paul Johnson, North Carver Water District.
okay, folks, we're going to jump back to Article 2. To see if the town will vote to transfer from the North Carver Water District retained earnings the amount of $15,315.75 to pay the following unpaid bills under the provisions of Chapter 44 and 64, or take any other action relative thereto. And there's 3 bills, to the Copeland page and 1 to Small Water Systems. I hope everybody's got a copy of the handout out there. So if not, there should be some on the table over here. Please help yourself to them. Okay, Mr. Johnson, would you like to?
Yeah, these were bills that were largely driven by the water quality problems and the fact that, you know, when that all occurred, our main operator was in the midst of a vacation. So what we did is we elected to not pay these 3 bills because we didn't have sufficient funds in the budget. So that's where we are. We were pretty well up front about the Copeland, you know, about the legal expenses being problematic for us. The issue with small water systems is an issue of ongoing low flow in the district. We were pumping water at a very low rate during that time period, and in warmer weather, that becomes problematic with water sitting in the pipes. Bacteria tends to grow, and you get total coliform bacteria in the system, which you need to eliminate. Total coliform is not a health issue by itself, but it's a precursor to other more serious problems down the road, and you don't want to get into that. At that point in time, we were pumping about 15,663 gallons per day.
So just for the benefit of the people out there, Paul, we want to tell them that nobody was in jeopardy.
Yes.
Nobody was at risk.
Right.
But if the problem had not been dealt with,
The DEP routinely monitors these bacteria forms
Right.
because they're like a canary in the mine.
Right.
They tell you that it's time to do something with bacterial film that grows on the inside of any pipe in any system. You have to flush periodically. And when those bacteria start appearing in your samples, you have to do something. And typically what you do is you open the system up and induce turbulence in the system and scrub the inside of the pipes clean and flush it out of the system.
what was the purpose of Copeland and Page, though? I mean,
Well, it's just the breakdown of how we elected and who we elected not to pay in order to meet our obligations. So So it wasn't per se Copeland and Page, was just happened to be one of the bills that we couldn't pay.
So you decided not to pay the lawyers, Paul?
We decided
All
not.
right, just making sure.
We didn't think there'd be anybody in town
Good choice,
sympathetic
Paul,
to
good
the
choice.
lawyers.
Well, then we should vote this down then.
Yeah, I hope my son isn't listening, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have an attorney from Copeland and Page here tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, FinCom, if you could take a vote so you can open it up for discussion.
Anyone like to make a motion to approve Article 2?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Are there any questions, concerns?
I'll second it to discuss. The legal bills that you have from Copeland and Page,
Yep.
what do they relate to specifically?
I don't know the individual bills. They would probably be betterments and general legal advice for the district. Again, because Copeland and Page wasn't a driver, they just happened to be one of the bills that we selected not to pay.
Okay.
Okay, it wasn't anything that they did, it wasn't, you know,
That's a good question, though, Peg. I think, Rick,
Well, I'm
maybe,
just curious
Well,
why.
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of legal work done. I know for you to go through the abatement processes and get the legal advice, and there was obviously
What I was
legal
gonna
hearings involved, et cetera, which, most of which you probably won't have to see anytime soon again, but that was, or if, again, ever again, some of it, so.
but I think what we need to do is definitively match it up to what we spent the money on, so in case the question arises on town floor, we're not floundering around if somebody puts us on the spot
I
on
would
it.
like people to understand
Yeah.
that this just happens to be the bills that we elected not to pay.
Okay, but let's just identify what those bills were for.
Yep, that's fine.
Peggy, is that good?
That's fine.
Okay.
Paul, a quick question for you, Mr. Chair. We did have a legal budget, though, for this, first of all, this Copeland and Page bill is for 2012?
Yes, keep in mind, this is the North Carver Water District budget. This isn't the town's legal budget.
Yeah, I'm looking at the North Carver Water District budget.
Okay, okay.
And I've got legal services of about 10 grand budgeted for 2012. So you're saying that you had money budgeted, but you didn't spend it, or you spent over that $10,000 and you had these additional?
I don't recall, because I wasn't focused on that, I'm not prepared to answer that question right now. And again, we're at the situation, we were over the budget, that would have been, you know, a different problem for us, and I would be prepared to explain it. But because they weren't at fault for anything, I didn't anticipate the question.
And with regards to the small water systems, I see most of the line items on this bill say the contract drinking water services. That was because the operator was on vacation?
And we had the issue where we had total coliform bacteria hits, and we had to address that, and we had to address it now. It wasn't a situation where we could wait.
Do you use this company on a fairly regular basis, or do you intend to?
They are the contract operator for the system right now, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions from the FinCom? Okay, can I get a motion and second from the Board of Selectmen?
Move the,
Okay, go ahead. You do it.
Yep. move we approve Article, what is it, 2?
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. It's now open for further discussion by the board. Any questions by the board? Jack, go ahead.
Paul,
kick it off.
I think when the town accountant looks at your expenses, he lumps them all together as expenses. So even though you have $10,000 in the legal budget, you could be spending $20,000 in legal fees, because
Yes.
he aggregates all your expenses together.
Yes.
And so you ran out of money, so therefore, you just didn't pay those specific bills,
That's correct.
because you didn't have any more money to pay them.
That's correct.
Okay.
Do you?
Ellen?
I think I understand at this point, based on a lot of discussions we've had about the low flow of water caused the bacteria to start. Will you just remind me, or the residents, that will this happen again? And the solution to it is using more water, so as we get businesses in, this problem will be diminished, correct?
We hope. We've taken a number of different steps to try to increase the flow. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's a revenue problem as well as a health problem. We've brought on new users like JPA. We are presently in negotiations, and I don't think this has been made public until tonight, but I did get to go ahead to do it. We've been in negotiations since the summer with Deacon's to supply water for their operation. They've been trucking in water, and we
So
made
this is all
overtures to them based on conversations I had with Mr. Franny and Mr. Ward, that they were purchasing water, and we approached them, would they be willing to purchase it from us, and they are.
Excellent.
What we need to do, we need to up the amount that we're pumping. If we're pumping on the order of 15,000 gallons per day, order of magnitude, when we had to shut the system down during the May time period for flushing, we pumped water into the, to waste, basically, for 24 hours. And it amounted to about 20,000 gallons. So, and we did that through a 5/8 garden hose. So you can imagine if you got a 5/8 garden hose pushing 20,000 gallons a day, how low the flow is in an 8-inch or larger pipe. The flow, it goes very slowly. So the water isn't turning over. So what we need to do is we need to get that usage up.
Yep.
Is it gonna recur? Can't answer that question. I think experience will tell. Hopefully, what we're gonna do with the Deacon's project is we're gonna install a hydrant in the Marion Drive area. It's one of the furthest areas away from the pump station. And we're gonna draw water from there, so we draw water, the oldest water through the system and keep the water moving. We have every reason to believe that that's gonna help. I can't guarantee that it's gonna eliminate it, but it should help. We're also planning to work with Middleborough to do an annual flushing of the entire system, concurrent with their flushing of their system at the end. Recall that we don't, we didn't do phase 2 of the North Carver Water District. We don't have the pressure and the flow necessary to be able to get the kind of turbulence you need to clean the pipe. So we're gonna have to use the Middleborough system to do that. So those are the steps that we're taking to keep the quality problem to a minimum. It will more likely be a problem in the summer than it is in the winter because of temperature.
Because of the temperature. Thank you.
Dick?
I'm thinking of in the summer with small water systems, it's very important that if anything happens, I know you know this, Paul, and your commission, that they do something immediately just because of public confidence.
The issue, and I'm glad Mike brought it up, when we talk about public health, that is our number one concern. Revenue is second. When we talk about total coliform bacteria, people should not confuse that with fecal coliform, which is very serious. The total coliform is the canary in the mine. And we don't want to get to the point where we have a problem. That's why the DEP monitors our reporting and what we do. And we work as closely as we can with them and with Small Water System, who has the expertise to help us.
Thank you. Sarah, do you have anything?
I'm all set.
Jack, anything else?
I'm all set.
All right, we have
Mike,
another comment, question?
My question really isn't, we've covered the expenses, but I'm not sure if this is for Paul, Rick, or Jack, with regards to, I'm having a hard time with the funding mechanism being retained earnings of the North Carver Water District. Typically, financial rather than fund accounting, we don't borrow from retained earnings. How does this work? You're borrowing from North Carver Water District?
Well, this wouldn't,
North Carver Water
this
District?
wouldn't be a borrowing, this would be a direct payment from retained earnings.
Retained earnings,
Yes.
all within the North Carver Water District?
Correct, correct. Nothing to do with the general fund of the town of Carver.
Okay, and is that typical? I mean,
Yes,
I've never
it
seen
is.
that before.
We
It
had
i-
conversations with the DEP about retained earnings and our ability to use it, and they concur that we can use it.
So does this basically reduce is this coming out of the fund equity, either the reserved, the unreserved funds?
Yes, it's
coming
coming
out
out
of
of the fund equity.
The unreserved funds?
Yes. Remember, we had initially had reserved about 500,000 for the early years of funding it before we could get up and actually.
The betterments,
Right.
right.
But the DOR comes in and they look at your whole balance sheet and all the activity, and then, like typical with the general fund balance, they'll certify free cash, okay? That's really your fund balance, so they certified $240,000 in fund balance for the North Carver Water District.
Okay, but
So that's available to be used.
I'm looking at the October financial statements. I see an unreserved fund balance of $156,000. We've got two articles here drawing it down to about $53,000.
Well, those might be a little bit misleading because of the conventional wisdom at the time was that they had the reserve money that they had received in from betterments for future years. So they have to reserve that to pay against, for the debt service. And the DOR is allowing them to put the entire thing in the fund balance and use that. So that could be a little bit misleading because I think that was based on reserving those future monies in the fund balance that they certified. doesn't take that into consideration.
How much was the fund balance certified again? Do you know?
240,000. I have a letter, I can give it to you at the end of the meeting.
And that's a change in the philosophy at the DEP. They didn't used to let you do
No.
that. There are some downsides. I mean, you play that fund equity down and you could have problems
Exactly.
further down the road and have to have general fund subsidies to make up the difference. Hopefully, we don't get that. You could.
Well, it's,
Right.
you're spending future revenues, and as far as I'm concerned, you're just kicking the can down the street. It's gonna happen eventually.
Well, what you're betting on is that the development of the business community in North Carver will, and the revenue that comes from that will offset the use of these funds. That's what you're betting on, so.
Well, not just that, but
So,
those
and then
future
you'll never have to have a,
betterments over the next,
Right.
38, 39 years have been paid off all at once now, and you're using those revenues, so, using those funds, I should say. So that's why that's a little bit misleading. I don't know if you follow me or not.
No,
but
no, I
yeah.
understand, just,
Yeah.
since we are lowering this reserve balance, it's a high likelihood if the area doesn't develop, that we'll be subsidizing through the general fund down the road,
Right.
but not now.
I was gonna remind people that, we're using the fund equity, now. If, we're kicking the problem down the road a little bit, hopefully, when the economy has recovered a little bit, and there'll be a little bit more around, notwithstanding the governor's announcement today about cutting local aid. So, I mean, we live in a tough environment, but, we do have projects going on that should increase the flow and increase the revenues that we get coming in. Are they enough? Time will tell. We got some positive news on Carver Realty. We've negotiated to add JPA in there. We've got that Mazzilli property. We've got some things going there that hasn't gone in the direction we'd hoped, but there's still hope there. So.
yeah, the bottom line is why have a general fund subsidy unless you know you need one? And right now, we don't know that we need one, so hopefully we'll never need one.
Mr. Carter, does that answer your question?
Thank you, I'm fine.
Any further questions from anybody?
Yeah, what's JPA?
It's a,
It's the people that own the Cornerstone Plaza. They were, there was some talk about development that were in the neighborhood of the 4458 interchange there, the old Mazzilli property. There was some issues, that happens to reside within the well radius of the Cornerstone's well, and hooking them up with a joint project with the RDA eliminated that as an issue. So it makes it more likely that we'll be able to see that project develop that land develop at some point.
the redevelopment authority paid approximately $13,000 to have them hooked up, under the theory that we wanna, address the blighted areas in town, and, so that company could build on the corner there. That's what we did, and, when they do finally build there, they're gonna reimburse us 50% of the cost, but it helps the town overall.
It helps town overall, and it gave us an immediate boost in the amount of water that we're pumping, which is good. Came at a good time.
All right, moving this along. Any other questions? Can we get a vote from the FinCom, please?
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of approving Article 2, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nope. We have 6. 6-0.
Board of Selectmen, any further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. It's unanimous. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer a sum of money from short-term interest to the North Carver Water District for the purpose of defraying the North Carver Water District budget for FY 2013, or take any other action relative thereto.
The latest estimate we have for the budget shortfall for this year is 34,370.74. And there is I didn't bring it, there's a memo from John Adams laying that out. Basically, it comes from changing the way that we're running the system. Mike Willem left for personal reasons. We do have increased costs for unemployment. We have, if we change over to a contract operator like we're planning on, we just received 3 proposals to do that yesterday. It makes sense financially for us to do that. That could leave us on the hook for about $13,000 in unemployment compensation costs. We reached out to the people that we were soliciting bids from and asked them if they were gonna pick up our remaining operator, and we're evaluating proposals, and that will be one of the financial criteria, so that 12 grand might go away. Seems prudent at this point in time to leave that in the, in our thinking and go ahead and plan for the shortfall that John calculated.
Thank you, Paul.
If I could point out, though, Mr. Chairman, that Article 3 is actually not necessary because it was anticipated a subsidy from short-term interest. I think the discussion you're having is really under Article 4. Article 4 is where the goal is to make sure that we target the right enough retained earnings to balance the budget in the district. So 3 and 4 were supposed to work in tandem, but because of the news that the district got regarding the ability to utilize those, the revenues from, I'm sorry,
DOR?
yeah, the abatements, early betterments, because of that approval, they don't, there's no general fund subsidy necessary as was anticipated under Article 3. So the goal is now, under Article 4, just to make sure we have the right numbers from anticipated water revenue. You're essentially revoting the budget of the district to anticipate the right amount of water revenue and the amount of retained earnings that need to be included. So Jack and I had a discussion about this today, and we have the basis of a motion that would cover that. And it would be $458,627 from estimated water receipts and $103,713 from retained earnings. So that's really the discussion on Article 4. Article 3 really goes away.
The 458 is the total, so the 103 should be taken away from that, and then
Correct, I'm
354.
sorry. Correct, yes.
And basically what we're doing is when you set your budget, you come up with your budget, and as long as you have the estimated receipts to cover it, then you're all set, but there's not,
Should we eliminate Article 3?
It should be withdrawn on the floor, correct.
Move we withdraw 3.
That's
Can we withdraw it? It's gotta be the,
Gotta be done
really
by the Water Commission?
commissioners should do that,
so we should table that and just move on to Article 4.
correct. That would be
Okay. Do we need FinCom to table that?
pass over it indefinitely, whichever terminology you choose to use.
Sorry, which article we talking about, 4?
Tabling 3, because they're gonna incorporate it into 4.
That's fine.
Can we get a vote from you guys?
Anyone like to make a motion to vote on tabling Article 3?
So moved.
We have a
That's your
second.
understanding.
Second, all those in favor of tabling Article 3, say aye.
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 Okay. Board of Selectmen, can I get a motion in a second?
Did talk to him,
I'll make that motion.
yeah, so.
I'll second it.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of
Tabling.
tabling Article 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. It's unanimous. So we'll move on to Article 4, to see if the town will vote to increase the amount transferred from the North Carver Water District retained earnings for the purpose of defraying the North Carver Water District operating budget from, the numbers, Paul?
100,883 to 103,713.
Okay, and where'd the 458 and 354 come in?
Those are the numbers it takes you to get to there.
Totals, yeah,
Those are
Okay.
the numbers.
Rick can give them to you.
right.
Okay, all right. But these numbers are sufficient for what we're
Right,
addressing.
right. The goal is to put together two pieces. One, the amount of estimated water revenue,
Okay,
together with the amount of necessary retained earnings to match the budget.
Yeah, the total
Appropriation.
budget was 458.
Right. And that's not gonna change. The overall budget appropriation is
You
not
can
gonna
bring
change.
in 354 in receipts, so the difference, you take out of retained earnings.
do we,
That's what the motion will read.
okay. Does everybody understand that?
None whatsoever. I've got it.
Okay,
I'm not digesting
all
that.
right.
You know, my mind just doesn't work that fast.
Rick and I have worked these
Yeah.
out, so I'll let Rick
Essentially,
speak.
the North Carver Water District is funded primarily on receipts from users.
Yep.
And on, and betterments, okay? In putting the budget together, the commission had to initially consider what they felt was going to be, what level of water receipts they were going to receive. Because again, there's no general funding source here. Based upon some of the fiscal issues that the district has dealt with this year, they are aware that they're gonna have retained earnings that they weren't aware that they were gonna have available. Because based upon the number, the 458,000, we were concerned that there might be the need for a general fund subsidy before we could set a tax rate. That's why we're having a town meeting. It was determined, again, with the commission and the town accountant, that we're not gonna need a general fund subsidy, but we are going to need to increase the amount of retained earnings that are necessary to offset the budget appropriation. So that's really the goal of this town meeting, is to make sure that the North Carver Water District is fully funded, so that we can set the town's tax rate. Because if that's not done, the Department of Revenue is gonna make us go back to the legislative body and rearrange our numbers again. So we have to do that. So effectively, all we're doing is rearranging how the budget of the water district is composed. And we can do that now because we know that they've got retained earnings available. And there's no general fund subsidy required. So that's what we're gonna try to accomplish.
Do we need to rewrite this article?
Well, the motion,
Yes.
we don't have to, yeah, there's a
Rick's
motion
gonna-
that we have, that I've conspired with Mr. Adams on, and I have discussions with Jack Franny about it today, that's going to read something along the lines of, to see if the town will vote to, appropriate $354,000 from estimated water receipts, and $103,000 from retained earnings, for a total of $458,000 to fund the requirements of the North Carver Water District. Right along those lines. It's
All right.
really that simple.
So for the purposes of tonight, what should we do? Should we table this until town meeting and then take our votes on the floor?
Well, you could, but I think, it's up to you. I mean, what do you feel you want to do? Do you feel that you need to determine exactly how much of these pieces? I think the numbers are pretty solid at this point. It's $354,914 from receipts and $103,713 from retained earnings.
The budget isn't
We know the
changing. The
numbers.
budget number's exactly the same.
It's just a
All it
configuration
is the
of
funding
resources.
sources.
FinCom, are you comfortable with this?
No, can I just ask a question? I understand the
Sure.
concept
Yeah.
of how this has been structured and how we've got this short funding that we're gonna basically make up the retained earnings. My question is, now we now have a philosophical difference of how we're running the North Carver Water District, correct? Fiscal year 2013, we had an operator, now we don't. So now he's left. So now we're looking at, hey, our line items have changed. We're now going to go out and get a third-party contractor,
Yes,
potentially?
yes.
I wanna see that detail. I request to see that detail, to see this new revised budget, even though it's gonna tie to the 458. I don't wanna vote on numbers that I'm not sure of until I see actual spreadsheets on how we're coming up with them. I would recommend, at least from the finance committee, to table this until town meeting.
But what are you gonna know in 2 nights, John, about that? I mean.
I would like to have seen it before tonight, you know?
Yeah, the problem is, those are ongoing discussions. We just got the RFPs in yesterday. And what we did is, when we had the opportunity, when Mr. Willem left, at that point in time, we had to decide how we were gonna run the district. And it became clear that in order to continue on with our own operators, we were gonna need more depth. We were gonna need more expertise, and we were going to have to employ small water systems or another contractor to give us that backup for vacations, to give us some level of expertise that we don't have in dealing with the DEP and that kind of thing. So at that point in time, we had an opportunity. We said we started down the road of interviewing, and then we decided, as a parallel effort, we'd look at contract operations. And that's when we started dealing with, we were having good luck with small water systems, running the system.
But the appropriation hasn't changed. It's exactly the same as we voted in.
But how do we know that's enough, Jack? How do we know it shouldn't be 458? We're now going with a third-party contractor, it should be
Well,
478.
that's up to them to manage their budget appropriately. What we're looking at here is how we funded it. When we first came into the special town meeting, we thought that we were gonna have to take money out of the short-term interest as a general fund subsidy. But now that the DOR has changed the rules about the fund balance, we realize that we have a much greater fund balance, so we don't need the general fund subsidy. We just take the money out of the fund balance and use the estimated water receipts. Now, if you feel comfortable with those estimated water receipts, then it's pretty elementary after that. You just subtract that from what the appropriation was, and then the difference comes out of your fund balance.
In round numbers, John, just so that you know, we were looking at about $10,000 a month for small water systems versus $120,000 in salaries. And what we get is the ability to pick up the phone and say, hey, we need somebody with expertise dealing with the DEP, and we get transferred to somebody that deals with the DEP all the time. There are trade-offs, obviously.
I don't disagree with what you're doing, Paul. I mean, I have confidence in that. I haven't seen any numbers. I haven't seen any kind of, detail. And we're looking to vote on is the number 103,000 now, or did it change?
103 coming out of the fund balance.
Out of the fund balance. I just feel myself uncomfortable voting on that without seeing some kind of, revised budget schedule.
The only thing I would say is all you're doing is trading retained earnings for a general fund subsidy. That's really all you're doing here. So I understand the concern, but it doesn't affect the bottom line budget. All you're doing is realigning the revenue stream. Two nights, our goal is to have
It's the best of all worlds.
yeah, I mean, that's what we're hoping for. So, I hate to say this to you, Paul, but how you guys stay within your budget appropriation and manage the outfit is really, that's your challenge. But I certainly think that we have to, I would keep this in perspective, because the goal of this town meeting clearly is to get the business done so we can get the bills out on time.
Exactly.
So,
Dick, you got a question there?
Well, no, it was a comment. I mean, in this situation, we need to be supportive of the water district and their work. And we hold them up, or we ask for them for numbers that they're not going to be able to exactly come up with a Thursday night, could hold up a vote. So I would prefer to vote it now and be supportive of where they want to go.
I would, here, before your committee, if I had the numbers, there's some of these numbers are just coming together. I mean, this memo that I'm looking at from JQ was done on November 20th, and I've been on vacation, so there's just been no time. It's been tough. Everything's in a state of change, but we're trying to manage it so that we stay within our budget constraints as best we can.
I understand, and
I think, we will be meeting with you very shortly on the budget, and, I'd be happy to meet with you before then.
And I understand that, Paul, and I appreciate that, but I think all of us collectively need to do a better job of coordinating and communicating. We should not be having these lengthy discussions at this point in time, two nights before a town meeting. That's unsatisfactory, I think, for the general public and the audience out there. John, I appreciate your concerns. Have they allayed some of that concern with their comments?
Well, they have, but myself, I'd feel more comfortable with at least the Finance Committee tabling their vote on this article until, are you saying that within 2 nights, we won't have any kind of revised detail? So at town meeting, we're just gonna be voting on the $103,000 transfer from retained earnings to...
We can provide you the information that JQ used to get to these numbers. That wouldn't be a problem. We can forward you those emails and do the best job we can explaining it to you.
And if the FinCom doesn't feel comfortable voting tonight, you can meet before the town meeting.
Time to post for that meeting.
That's true.
So I think it's up to you. I would make a motion for the Finance Committee to postpone voting on Article 4 until voting on it at town meeting.
Second.
Is there a second? We have a second? All those in favor of postponing this article until town meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Have 1.
All right, we have the FinCom's decision. Board of Selectmen, do we have a motion and a second?
I make the motion that we support this.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion by the Board of Selectmen? Everybody understands what's going on here? Everybody feels comfortable with that? All right. Hearing no further discussion, Board of Selectmen, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous by the Board of Selectmen. Paul, make sure you get that information to John on that, will you?
thanks, Paul.
What else do we have here?
6 is
Oh.
the 5.
Article 5, to see if the town will vote to appropriate or borrow the amount of $40,300 for the Cranberry Village Water District for the purposes listed below, with $26,300 to come from the Cranberry Village Water District retained earnings and $14,000 to come from the Cranberry Village Water District estimated water revenues, or take any other action relative thereto. Is there somebody to promote that, Rick?
Mr. Hunter or Mr. Johnson should speak to that. This was actually a proposal that came from the water operators. As you know, the town has contracted with the North Carver Water District to actually run these systems for us. So these were suggestions that ultimately they came from the water district, so,
These are just trying to give some forward-thinking direction to the operation of these systems, so that they have a plan for how to upgrade the system. They do have money to spend, but rather than do it in an ad hoc way, you know, we suggested that when we had CEI that they provide us a quote to do those evaluations of all three systems, and that's what this is for. Try to give us a plan going forward, a master plan. What do they need? What direction should they go? So it's not a piecemeal approach.
Okay, so you're fully in support of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. FinCom, can we get a vote and some discussion from you guys?
Sure. Would like to make a motion to vote to approve Article 5. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. Any other questions, concerns?
I have some questions. Mr. Farquharson has been before the...
Can we use the mic, Peg?
Oh, I'm sorry.
People at home can't
Mr.
hear you.
Farquharson has been before the FinCom on a number of occasions looking for additional money for these additional chemicals. And now I see that he's requesting, or this article is requesting, not him personally, I'm sorry, requesting another $14,000 for this same additional chemicals. How many more additional chemicals do we need to run that?
I can help a little bit, just a little. When we had a water superintendent taking care of that, it was the first time anybody's really taken a hard look at that well, and it's in serious need of the things that are in this article, and it was written up by Mr. Woolham, this article specifically to try to address the concerns in a long and short-range term. I can't tell you the exact chemicals, I just don't know enough about it. But certainly if they're more than necessary, then we won't have to buy them later. It's the only way I can think about it.
Peggy, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it just seems that you know,
I
there's
think without
always
having
a...
Mr. Farquharson here, it's gonna be
Right.
difficult to get
I can't
an exact answer on this check,
exactly.
and Paul are doing the best they can with that,
Yep.
so. What was your other question there?
That, and then there was the thing about erecting the fence. I mean, it seems to me that he brought that before the FinCom, looking for money for that too, and I'm not sure at this point, whether we approved or disapproved that, but it just seems like there's a lot of double asking for things here.
Why don't you check your minutes on that? Because that's important. We do not want to repeat the doling out of money for the same projects multiple occasions, so.
According to other members of the FinCom, we've, out of the reserve fund, we've done at least $10,000 on additional chemicals. And maybe more.
Okay,
That-
maybe-
That's a lot of
We need to
additional
get Jerry
chemicals.
in and talk to him, Jack, and see what's going on, and,
Jerry just got back today. He did mention that he couldn't come tonight.
okay.
As far as the fence, I know this, about 4 or 5 years ago, I wrote a grant for, under Homeland Security for the fence there, but unfortunately, we didn't get it.
Okay.
And I know that, one of Mike Woolham's concerns, and obviously Jerry's, is the security.
Absolutely.
And we talked about that at the FinCom, right.
It's required.
And I don't think anybody has a problem with that, but we don't want to duplicate the effort.
Yeah, I have no idea if
Monies are scarce.
created monies for the fence people.
Well, why don't we double-check that?
Yeah, would,
Can we put that on hold and put the vote off until the evening of the town meeting?
I can check on the chemicals. The fence, you'll have to figure if you paid for it.
Okay, we didn't do the fence?
I don't think we did the fence.
Okay.
We'll check your minutes, okay?
So then I'll do the chemical one.
Okay? FinCom, you in agreement with that? We'll table it till the town meeting floor?
That's fine.
All right?
I'd like to get that answer as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Would any-
just don't know enough.
Okay, no, and that's understandable, so.
I just don't have, we don't have a motion, anyone could make a motion to table?
So moved.
Second.
Article 5, we have a second. All those in tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I make a
Board of
motion to
Selectmen?
table.
We have a motion to table. Any second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by the board?
Question,
Okay.
Go ahead, Dick.
till when are we talking?
Town meeting
The
floor.
town meeting floor,
So you can make a vote at town meeting
Right.
floor?
right.
Well,
FinCom,
we're
okay.
posted for 6:30, so we
Yep.
can take a vote then if we
Okay.
wanted to.
Yep,
But what I was gonna ask you to table it anyhow, because I'd like to see about the possibility of borrowing and spreading this out over 5 years, instead of taking it all out of their fund balance you know, we set their rates 4 or 5 years ago, and we set them high so that we could build up the balance. Now that we have a big balance, we're spending the money out. I'd like to revisit at a future selectmen's meeting, the rates we're charging, and see if they're still appropriate. So, but I mean, that's two different things, but I want to check and see if we can borrow, if those costs are eligible to borrow against. They might not be, and then spread it out over 5 years.
You'll have that answer for us on Thursday?
I will,
Jim?
yeah.
Okay.
I'll be able to get it tomorrow.
Any other questions for the board? Hearing none. All those in favor of tabling, please say aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Gene. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $77,000 from the overlay surplus account in order to pay an abatement to Verizon New England Incorporated for taxes assessed in fiscal year 2009 upon poles and wires located in and over public ways in the town of Carver, and further to transfer an additional $21,360 from the overlay surplus account to the debt service line for related interest expenses, all as a result of the recent decision of the Massachusetts Appeals Court on this issue, and/or take any other action relative thereto. And Rick, would you like to address that?
I will, the assessors can address that, that's.
Assessor's problem.
Absolutely, Ellen. Jump in there with both feet.
I think it's fairly self-explanatory. What happened was, the Department of Revenue actually sets the values for Verizon New England, and we are required and bound by law to accept their values. And they, Verizon New England appealed the value to the Appellate Tax Board on behalf of, in opposing 341 towns and cities in the Commonwealth. The other 10 were actually, they had their own legal representation, and the rest of us were just kind of on board with the Department of Revenue, and whatever the outcome was what it was. So it was finally, it was appealed to the Appellate Tax Board by Verizon New England. The outcome was unsatisfactory. It was again appealed to the Massachusetts Appeals Court, which said it was remanding it back to the Appellate Tax Board, which said that we all had to pay plus 6% interest on the excess amount. So the amount was just shy of $77,000 that was abated, and then the interest was $21,360. Lot of money, because it had to go from May of 2009 to, we paid them November 1st.
So basically, it's a court judgment, and we have no choice. We've got to.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you, Ellen.
And the funds are all within the amount that's been set aside for overlay reserve over a number of years now, so this is not an impact otherwise on the budget.
Okay. Mr. Carter?
We're just transferring to overlay surplus.
Okay.
All right, anyone like to make a motion to approve Article 8? We've got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions, concerns? Anyone? Quick question, how much money do we have right now in the assessor's overlay account?
We have sufficient amount, and I should have looked to see what it was before I came here. It's in my office, I can go look, but there is sufficient amount. It's around 150,000 after this.
How much is that, Ellen?
150,000 after this is paid.
Okay.
So we should,
Again, that's amount that's still reserved for other abatements at this point. It's
Absolutely.
not overlay surplus. It's not available
what's
funds.
outstanding.
So that's not available to be spent
No.
Oh,
in the
no,
future.
Just continue.
So I think probably
Because
John
we-
was looking for the amount that might be available to be spent.
Well, I think that,
It's not.
when I thought you said the overlay reserve is 250, we're gonna be spending roughly $100,000
Right, but
tonight, so you're gonna
that
be left with
money,
150.
that 150 also includes the bills that, the tax bills that have not yet been paid, and I don't remember what all the numbers are, so
So it's gonna go up from the 150.
No.
it's going to go down.
Oh, it's gonna go
Yeah.
down.
Right.
Yes.
Right. There'll be about 150 left to, available to handle any other abatement
Other
requests that
abatements.
come in. And at some
Which is the
point,
purpose of,
and at some
overlay.
point, hopefully, the abatement request will not come in, or will, whatever the situation is, and there will be amounts that can be released later on as surplus. But the 150 is held
Yes.
against future reserves for abatements currently.
and we do still have some appeals at the appellate tax board that we have not either settled or gone to court on.
Did you have like an average number that you, abatements per year that you go through?
Oh, annually?
Yeah.
60?
60?
It's really minimal. But it's always the commercial ones. So of course, you know, commercial, business, personal property. They're always, and that's what this was business, personal property.
Satisfied with that, sir? Any other questions from your board?
Nope. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of approving Article 8 as written, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 6-0 to approve.
Board of Selectmen, I need a
Make a
motion.
motion, we approve.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Alan. We'll see you again shortly. You're not running away on us, right? Okay, Article 9, to see if the town will vote to authorize the establishment of a municipal insurance revolving account in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to which shall be deposited reimbursements from insurers for insured on-duty medical claims, and from which the town, through the Board of Selectmen, may make expenditures for the purposes of paying for said claims. Expenditures for FY 2013 from such funds shall not exceed $75,000 or take any other action relative thereto by the Board of Selectmen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is effectively a pass-through fund so that we can pay medical claims for injured police officers with insurance reimbursements. Just a mechanism to do that.
Okay.
How do we do it now?
Well, up until 2 years ago, we were fully insured, so that we actually didn't pay any vendors.
Okay.
The problem is when you're fully insured, you usually pay for that. We paid a lot of money to be fully insured, so now we have a deductible in a stop loss, but it does involve us paying vendors directly. So it's been a fairly new situation with us that we intended to save. Well, we do save money with this other form because we're not fully insured, but we just never created the mechanism that we discovered that would work for us. Because the money goes into the general fund, it doesn't help us, so. Wasn't an issue last year, it's becoming an issue though.
Thanks, Rick. Mr. Carter, you get a motion and a second on your board, and
I'd like to make a motion to approve Article 9 as written.
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, concerns? Nope. All those in favor of approving Article 9 as written, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 6-0.
Board of Selectmen, can I get a motion and a second?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Recusal, 1. I'm recusing myself from that as a police officer. Article 10. Is that it for the FinCom, as far as money articles?
I think so.
Might want to come
Take-
back to this after the tax rate hearing.
All right. As suggested by Mr. LaFawn, we're going to jump over this for the time being, come back to it after the tax hearing.
So we're canceling this joint, the finance committee's done?
Can we take a quick break? Just lost track.
That's why I wanted to make sure.
Okay, and also, we're going to take a 5-minute break to get everybody a chance to collect themselves. Thank you for your cooperation.
All right.
All right, folks. If you're coming in to join us, please come on in, take a seat. We're going to be doing the tax classification hearing at this point. And we have our assessor and her board here to kick it off. Good evening, Ellen.
Good evening, Mike.
How is everybody from the assessor's office doing tonight?
We are always just ducky.
Have we got some good news for anybody?
Sure, values are going down a little bit.
Oh. They've already done that, haven't they?
Consequently.
Haven't they already done that enough?
No, they're just starting to level off.
Okay, how do we want to kick this off? Do we have a
We,
verbal presentation?
we do,
Okay.
because I neglected to go ahead of time to get the projector, so. The purpose of the classification hearing is to have the Board of Selectmen make a decision whether or not they will shift the tax burden from the residential and open space group to the commercial, industrial, and personal property classes. You will also be looking at, there are copies of this on the corner of the table for anybody who wants one. It's also on the website if you want to print it out at home later, or follow along if you.
Did we have copies for everybody on the end of the table, you said?
It's just, there's only 15. but
Okay,
it's-
anybody here resident that would like to help himself, we have 15 copies. Please feel free to avail yourself of that.
So, aside from sharing the levy raised, you will have to make a decision on the minimum residential factor, which is the same thing. Whether or not you will choose an open space discount, a residential exemption, or a small commercial exemption. Typically, we have never done any of those in this town. We have no open space property specifically as open space in this town, classified that way. The residential exemption does not work in any municipality except in a city, or where, for example, Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, where they get, they have million and up dollar homes, and the, it affects only the people who live there year-round. So that would, since we don't really have a second home population in Carver, it doesn't make sense to have that here. The small commercial exemption actually ends up increasing the commercial and industrial tax rates. So that is also not a sound thing to go with. Our levy limit this year is $19,148,436. And on page 4, you can see a breakdown of the different types of properties and what the total value is for each group. For those of you who are not aware, 101 is a single-family home. We have slightly over 3,000, and just about $780 million worth of value in those.
Does that include all of the manufactured homes, too?
No, it does not. Manufactured homes in mobile home parks are 103s. The mobile home park is assessed for the value of the land and the mobile home sites. But because mobile homes are considered personal property, even though they're not taxed as personal property, there is a payment that they make to the Board of Health in lieu of a tax on their mobile home. And the town of Carver, it's between $6 and $12 per month per unit. And the town of Carver voted many, many years ago to go right down the middle with $9 per unit. And it has remained that way, and I couldn't even tell you when that started, how long it's been at $9. It's been that way for
And that payment goes to the Board of Health?
Yes.
Is that how Tinkham gets all these golf vacations
That's
every
how,
year?
exactly.
I know he's watching me. Bob, I got you on my radar.
But that is general fund revenue.
Yes.
Basically, it goes collectible by the Board of Health, an excise tax.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Page 5 is just a list of important terms: levy, levy limit, and new growth, override, and so on. Page 6 is how the tax rate is computed. And if you look back at page 4, you can see that the total real and personal property total value is $1,095,596,610. If you divide that, if you divide the levy, which is $18,953,507, divided by the total value of all the taxable property, it actually comes out to 1729, 1730. It will always be adjusted because we have an excess levy capacity, and we cannot do anything about that until after the town meeting on Thursday. So we can't even submit the recap to the Department of Revenue until after the special town meeting, and I have no idea how long it will take for them to come back with confirming our tax rate. The minimum residential factor is just a number that we plug in. It's it is calculated by the Department of Revenue, and it can be figured by multiplying the commercial industrial personal property percentage of value by 150% and subtracting that number from 100. The minimum residential factor for this year is 93.5858. And the next page shows you the computation. This shows you the actual computation of 89.3096, but that is actually the, which it is actually the 130% that we, the Board of Assessors voted to shift the tax rate. The tax rate, now, this is another page 1 of 8, and it says if the tax rate is not shifted, the tax rate would be 1730. And you can see what the difference there is at increments of 5% starting at 110%.
And typically, what have we been setting this at, Ellen?
The 130.
130?
Yes.
Okay.
And these other pages, without getting into them too deeply, it just shows what the, page 2 of 8 shows what the average value for a single-family home is in the town of Carver. This year is $254,300, slightly down from last year, considerably lower than FY07, which was a reflection of the market in calendar year 2005. So shifting, on page 3 of 8, if you look at that, shifting the tax rate on the average single-family home value, the taxes would be approximately $4,300, which is up about $250 from last year. And that's how that basically reads across. So if you go with 130, the average tax bill would go up about $70. We all know that town budgets increase every year. There's nothing really that we can do about most of it because the budget is voted at town meeting, and it depends on what kind of revenues we're getting in to offset the budget, and the cost of police, fire, insurance, utilities, schools, everything, maintaining our roads, all of that costs money, and there's really not much we can do. I'm really proud of Carver because Carver is one of the, has been able to function without doing overrides for as long as I've lived here, and that's 21 years, and I've just been really impressed that the town has been able to do that. If you look at page 4 of 8, the average commercial neighborhood strip mall has a value of $1.8 million. The average commercial condo is $136,000, and the average commercial parcel overall is $384,600. It's really hard to pinpoint with commercial because we have a variety of different types of properties. So we would be, to just go with the average commercial property value just doesn't make a lot of sense when you have values ranging from 136,000 to 1.8 million. And more. And then this, page 5 of 8 is just a chart that shows if you change the shift to 130, these different increments of 5%, but at 130%, the increase in taxes over the last year would be about a little over $400. The industrial values are higher, and the average industrial property for this year is 585,800. It's about 1.5% less than last year, which is pretty much well, no, actually, the residential is lower by 2.7%, but we don't have a lot of new construction in the industrial arena either at this moment, for fiscal 2013. Hopefully more is coming online in 2014. But again, with the industrial on page 7, if you shift to 130%, the average industrial tax bill will go up a little over $400 as well. And then page 8 of 8 is chapter land, and the average chapter land parcel has a value of $35,400, and that's basically based on those all of the properties who have accepted the Chapter 61, 61A, or 61B program. They receive we call them value credits. It's the value's reduced. So if we go with the 130%, they would be paying about $40 a year more on their taxes. And so as I said again, the Board of Assessors have voted at their meeting on November 19th to recommend a split of 130%.
Very good.
I'd like to make a motion that we follow the Board of Assessors recommendation, have a tax rate shift of 130%.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second that motion.
We have a second, open for further discussion. Any comments, Ms. Hewens?
Thank you. Ellen, if I may, just for clarity, and so people at home, because a lot of this is complicated language. So is the 130% what the Board of Assessors recommended last year as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so that, when you say that rate is being shifted, who is it being shifted from and to?
It's being shifted away from the residential onto the commercial, industrial, and personal property.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? No, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion on it. Rick, do you have something you want to add?
Just, there is an opportunity for any public comment
Yeah.
related to the recommendation before you take a vote, that's all.
Okay. How about anybody in the audience? Anybody want to chime in on this? I got a thumbs up from Jack. Nobody else would like to speak to the matter? Please, come on up and join us. Mrs. Forrester, you have to go to the microphone, identify yourself, and then throw your darts.
There's a person that doesn't know me here? I didn't bring my bats. Jane Forrester, 13 Lincoln Circle, Cranberry Village. I'm very confused. Where are we in this?
That's called the LA4, the list there that shows
Yes.
you what the different classes.
Yep.
That's, the number is, the state class number is 103 for mobile home parks. If a mobile home is individually situated on a residential lot, then it becomes a single-family home. It's no longer a mobile home in a mobile home park. The mobile homes and the mobile home parks are exempt from real estate taxes. They pay an excise.
Okay,
That's that $9 a month, you pay the 180 a year.
right,
Right.
but we also pay taxes in our
On
rent.
the land
Yeah,
and on the individual sites, because they've been improved with paving and water and other utilities.
so then where does the land part of this come in then?
Well, that's the 103.
Okay,
And with 5 mobile home parks, plus the 109s are included in that. 109s are multiple house lots.
It's 44,580,000,
Oh, okay.
oh, okay,
about the third one down.
yep.
Maybe I can help. Mrs. Forrester, are you particularly concerned about whether or not they're being taxed similar to a residential property, or is that being taxed as part of the commercial base, so to speak? Is that kind of the gist of the question as to?
I think so, because I
Oh.
think you're more in line with.
So
what
you're
I'm
not, so you're
thinking, because-
concerned you're not getting the shift to you? Is that
Well,
the
No, no,
concern?
I
you're,
don't know where we are in this shift. That's
If-
what I guess
if-
what I'm asking.
when you're looking at this, everything in this column is residential.
Yep.
You're all taxed at the residential rate.
Okay, because we've gone through a change in the last year here as,
True, and your
Only-
values have not changed dramatically from last year.
okay, all right. That kind of answers it, thank you. I'm sorry for my confusion.
No,
I
that's
couldn't
fine.
get it.
Anytime, Jane.
Feel free to
right.
stop by.
There's 10,000 people out there with the same question as you, and you happen to ask it. That's good. Mr. Belbin.
Robert Belbin, 26 Kate Street. You said 101 is single-family homes?
Yes.
Where does two-family and single-family with in-law come in?
Single-family with in-laws are still considered single-family residences. That's the definition. 104s are two families, and there is a difference between the two.
Okay, thank you.
Did you, okay.
All right, anybody else have some questions out there? Not seeing nobody step forward, hearing nothing about the Board of Selectmen. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. Mr. LaFond, anything else to add to this, or? Okay.
Nothing.
Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you
For your
very
time.
much.
The education. All right, now we can go back to our articles for the special town meeting. Wrap that up.
Sure.
Okay. Article 10 is the large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installations. All right, who's the spokesperson for this? Mr. Sinclair. Tell us what's going on with this, Wilt.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Rest of you members, thank you very much for having us. As you and the public, I hope, are aware, we've been working on the solar bylaw for quite some time. First and foremost, I've got to thank everybody that's been involved with this. It's been a very hard job to draft this. Everybody's done an extremely great amount of work on this and did an excellent job as far as I'm concerned. You'll see, and I hope that people in the audience and at home have looked at this bylaw. The bylaw is dealing with a large ground-mounted solar voltaic systems in the residential agricultural aspect. We had a problem up front with this, as everybody is aware, and I hope the people at home are aware. Just a little background. We have a district that's called RA, Residential and Agricultural. That seemed to be the sticking point. How can you allow large ground-mounted systems when it would be so close to a residential area? The zone is just one zone. We went back and forth, and we came up with it under special permit by the planning board. And we came up with a lot of guidelines. The guidelines were very specific and very in-depth. We looked at anywhere from setbacks, cut zones, buffering, how much buffering is required. And in this document, which is quite lengthy, it'll tell you anywhere from, the size of the lot that's required, what type of setbacks that are required, what type of hazardous material requirements, and on and on. We covered every aspect of this, decommissioning, monitoring, maintenance on this. We still came up to a problem on deciphering where in town to allow it. Would it be town-wide? Would it be specific areas? Planning board, we were in front of the planning board, gave them a briefing on this. Everybody was 100% with the language. The problem was where to allow it in the residential agricultural area. You'll see that there's a map here that the bylaw committee came up with. Everything that is etched in, like the purple crisscross areas, is the overlay district that we're proposing with this bylaw. This is where it be allowed under special permit in the planning board area. And this was not a perfect map, and I want to be clear about that. It's not a perfect map. There are some properties in the areas. If I could, Mr. Chairman, just get up here.
Certainly. Peter, are you able to zoom in on that for the folks at home? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is this on? Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll speak up a little bit. As you can see here, and hopefully that people at home will see us here, anywhere in this area here that's defined that is not crisscross in the purple marking is not allowed at all in the residential agriculture area. This is the overlay district that we're proposing. We do know, and the subcommittee does recognize, that there are some properties in here that the bylaw regulations that we've designed and that we came up with, that there are properties that are large enough that could utilize this bylaw. The subcommittee has come up with this map, unanimously voted to accept this with all the regulations of what we thought would be a good starting point. I want to emphasize this is not a perfect map, but it is a great consensus of everybody's hard work where we thought that it would be a good starting point. I should back up a little bit and explain to you guys where we came from. We came from no bylaw that regulated anything in the town to a position where I, for one, wanted an overlay district in the whole town. There were people that were on the subcommittee that wanted it specifically only in the southern part of town, different spots. We were back and forth on this. This took most of the work was done on this. The language that you see in front of you, the buffering and stuff, we tweaked a little bit. It's not really that much difference from last year that we had presented to you guys into town meeting. We just emphasized more on if it was going to go in a residential area, how we could buffer it, and more specifically, give the planning board the ability to say no. And everything that's in there that allows us to critique a specific proposal that comes in front of the planning board, allow setbacks, allow buffering that we feel that's necessary if it gets close or abuts a residential area. You'll notice in the southern part of town, there's not that much residential development right now. And just by saying that down in here, we can allow it by right, there's going to be some development in the future years. We all know that. We've been dealing with that for years. How it's built and how it's developed, we don't know. Is it going to hinder, possibility of development if there's a large ground-mounted solar voltaic system down here? I don't know. I cannot answer that question. People have different aspects. That's not what we were charged to do. What you see in front of you is a very in-depth, good bylaw that was designed to bring to town meeting to pass and give us the rules and regulations that we need on the books to help us guide us through this process. The vote on this subcommittee was unanimous to endorse the bylaw as it's written, all the setbacks, and the overlay district map. Unanimous. This was a very wide range of people that was not only one-sided, the other side. It was a tough job. Everybody came into it knowing that it was going to be a tough task to take. But we were all charged to do a job, and we did that. We presented to the planning board. Planning board voted 3-1 to bring to the town. 3 in favor, 1 against. And I'll be on record, the 1 against was because of the overlay map. They weren't happy with the way that the map looked, and it was for the same thing that we've all talked about. People in the town have come up and approached me about it, and other members of the subcommittee, why are you allowing it everywhere else but not in my area? Why are you allowing it on my area? I don't want it. This is what we came up with. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I'm looking for full support from the Board of Selectmen at town meeting to endorse this. It's a great bylaw. We've thought of everything. We worked hard on this. This is probably one of the hardest feats that we've had to take in play in a long time, probably since the water district. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Do I have a motion and a second by the board so we can open this discussion?
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I wasn't gonna make the motion.
No?
Somebody else will have to second it.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the purposes of discussion. Who would like to start it off?
I can.
Go ahead, Jack.
I think it addresses most of my concerns of being appropriately cited, except for that little area that you mentioned up there where it's not allowed. But I know that probably the contentious meetings that you had as a subcommittee, and for you all to come together and be able to endorse this is phenomenal, my part. You know, so I wholeheartedly endorse this project.
Thank you, Jack. It was a lot of hard work from a lot of good people that care about the town. Thank you.
Kick in. Well, I know the people all involved in the committee, and I know how much work you've had to do on it, and I know how much controversy there's been through the past year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I kind of represent, I guess, somewhat the agricultural community. And I can live with the whole agreement. The setbacks, vegetation, all those things, I as a family person and a resident, I support that. And I think that in many areas in town, there won't be any problem with any of the things that you folks have done. My only concern is the overlay map. I see areas, I'm saying, well, why is that area not able to do it, put a solar? Now, I'm thinking in terms of a large-scale solar operation is more than 1 acre. So if somebody had a 2 or 3 acre site that they proposed to the town, it could fit in a lot of areas with the proper buffers and all the things. So I'm saying, why did you single out that area?
We had as you can imagine, and I know that you came to a couple of our meetings, and I've tried to keep a lot of you guys up to date on how we were going and stuff. And we had a lot of discussion on this, Dick. And the biggest thing is the area that we singled out not to allow this. If you take a look at that, that's mostly where a large portion of the residential development has taken place. And it's already existing. For one that really looked at this and tried to pick parcels of property out and then take the language that we put in place for setbacks and buffering, a parcel got very small when you started implementing as a planning board member and looking at it as a planning board application and trying to say that Dick, not to use you, but say Dick Wood had a parcel that was very large and it's not allowed on this map. Looking at that parcel and saying, okay, so you can implement this with all our setbacks. Now, looking as a planning board member, I'm going to allow this setbacks, this buffering and all that became very small, very tight. And in this also gives the ability for the planning board to say no. We didn't have that before, and that's crucial as a planning board member trying to do what's right in the residential area. The density that's up in that area of existing residential homes is pretty tight. There are parcels of property up there that could utilize this and would never be seen. Never, ever be seen.
Right.
But a consensus of a lot of months of hard work of trying to come up with a map that would work and be able to present to town meeting. And the consensus was of people of input, not only from the solar bylaw committee members, but from members at large of the citizens of the town, are saying, I don't want it here, I want this here, I don't want it here, and trying to do what was right. It's a tough decision.
Is there any room in that district which you've excluded from the plan? Somebody had a small site. Is there any special permits or anything that could be given after we vote for this plan and this overlay?
The way that I had talked at the solar bylaw committee, and also when I presented to the planning board, is that we're at a task to bring this to, and the citizens had asked us to bring this before town meeting.
I know the citizens, and they're very strong that they
And
don't want, yeah.
It's something that every bylaw that we've ever had in place, we've always brought back to town meeting and tweaked and moved on and tried to add. I think that'll come up in the future town meetings. This is a real good overlay map. I know that I've been approached by quite a few people that it should be townwide by special permit and the planning board. We looked at that. We looked in depth at that. I've also been approached even right up to today that it should be very minimal. A very spot right down by the southern part of the town, and that's it. And don't allow it at all, and then we'll get to it later. I've always said that I have a problem with taking the rights away from people's properties for economic development, whether it be a solar farm, a wind farm, any type of development that would help a farmer or what have you, or a resident, utilize the property for what they want to do. I don't like to take away that right.
I understand.
It's a tough road that we've walked, and it's still tough. It'll be tough on Thursday. It'll be tough when it's approved and brought forward, and we'll just have to keep working at it.
Get your question answered, Dick.
Yep.
Thank you, Dick. I appreciate it. It's tough.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. As you know, Will, I want to concur with Mr. Ward. I understand this bylaw is a compromise, and that you guys worked very hard. But I'm very concerned with a bylaw that disenfranchises landowners. I understand zoning sometimes does that to a certain extent, and well, can't make everybody happy. But this is a property rights issue, and we are talking about an agricultural town that keeps its land in open space, unprotected, but nevertheless open, and that actually, is tax positive, and that anything that would encourage something that's, good for the environment, plus keeps the land so it doesn't have to be sold for single-family residential homes with kids, as mine just recently was, that are tax negative, it could prevent that, that's a good thing. And as you actually hit the nail on the head, taking away people's property rights. But also, I think to me, the special permit would allow it or disallow it as the planning board would see fit. So I kind of agree. I think it should be the whole town, but be that as it may.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Will, thank you. I want to thank the committee again. I know that you've all worked hard. Great job. I do have just a question. In terms of the, I know that you charged the Bridgewater State University, came in and did a survey, spent a lot of time with us. Thank you, Bridgewater State University, because I don't think they charged us anything to do this. Can you just give the residents a general results summary of this, and was it incorporated into the final planning of this zoning, the overlay?
Yep, thank you, Helen. I do appreciate you asking about that, because as we were walking through this process and we were able to get Bridgewater State University to do a survey and send out the survey, it was very difficult for us to find out, okay, how are we gonna pay for our portion? And the Business Development District, Business Development Committee actually paid the $1,000 to help us get this done. It was a portion that we had to pay for. BDC thought that it was, when I presented to BDC, I presented it to them as that this was an economic development issue. We needed some bylaw in place, and we really needed to grasp a consensus of the town. You can talk to whoever you want in this town, and they will, every person will have a different look at this. But we really need to have a good grasp on it. So when the bylaw, the survey went out, the results were pretty much where we thought they were gonna be, just hearing. Absolutely a high percentage, an extremely high percentage, absolutely not in the residential area. No, no, no. That gave us what we felt was information, concrete information. We've got to better define this map somehow. That also gave, for me personally, a look at saying, okay, townwide, I wanted townwide overlay district by special permit from the planning board. And ask anybody that sat on the committee or went to these meetings, I pushed for that until I was blue in the face, and I still believe that. The problem is that the survey didn't say that, and you gotta listen to the residents. Whether you like it or not, you've gotta listen to the direction. The direction was very clear, not in the residential area. They were high on buffering. If you're gonna have it there, I want large amounts of buffering. I want large amounts of setbacks. If you're not able to do the setbacks, I want the planning board to tell them I want more natural tree buffer, higher fencing, stuff like that. That was important. That gave us the tools that we needed to tweak what we had already had in place, which was a great bylaw last year. We just made it, in my opinion, a real good one now. It held a lot of weight for us. And it really gave, and I don't think I'm misspeaking for any of the members here, and they're here, the bylaw committee members are here. It was important for us to get those results. And, you know, we got a 1% return, that was fine. It showed us pure direction, in my opinion. Pure direction that the residents, that if it was gonna come here, I wanted A, B, and C, which is buffer and buffer and buffer and setbacks. But also showed us that in the agricultural end, they were good with that. There was portions of agricultural that they saw, and some of the opinions would have been, and I don't want to speak out of terms for people, but talking with some of the farmers and stuff in the cranberry growers is that, you know, instead of building houses, this gives me another option, knowing right well that houses are a direct impact to us. Gives them another option for economic development. However you want to look at it, whether you like it or not, they were okay with that. Again, they wanted buffering. They wanted setbacks. They didn't want to encroach on their neighbors, and that's always been a cranberry grower or a farmer's way. They don't want to encroach. So I think it really had some good weight to it. A lot of people can take surveys however they want. I thought in our predicament, I kept looking for some good concrete information that would give me better direction.
So how many went out? Well, how many?
We had 1,000 mail-ins. We had 1% that came back.
1% that came back.
10%.
Yeah, so.
No,
10%.
11.5%.
It's getting late. I started at 4 this morning, so sorry.
Yeah, it is.
We'll excuse you, you're an electrician.
Answer your question, Helen?
Did.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I do appreciate the question because it's really important. If we're spending monies that, you know, from other committees working on this, it wasn't just one committee. It was a lot of committees working on this that helped guide us with, and I was very surprised on the amount of input that we got from citizens. It was great.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Jack?
No questions, just a comment. Now that I wholeheartedly endorsed your,
Perfect.
on the financial surety, I just had some comments on that. On 358.53. I'd like to see it changed to form of surety through an escrow account and cross out either escrow account or means mutually agreed upon in the town of Carver. I can always present this at town meeting if you want. And then, on page 9, such surety will not be required from the municipality or state-owned facilities. I still think we need some sort of financial surety in place. Because if we need to decommission those things, we'll be in a lot of trouble. The reason I wanted to have, make sure we have a cash surety is we have to learn a lesson from the past. In the BATG, we had $200,000 in cash surety, and the state came along and let them put in a worthless bond, and you can see where we go from there. So just some tweaks I wanted to make to it from standpoint of being the treasurer.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I think people are gonna make some amendments on the floor anyways. We had one that was brought to us today by a resident, you know, for requiring a professional land survey. We thought it was a great tool to add. That's why we voted to add that to that. That'll be as an amendment also. You know, any little thing that helps us better guide this through is great.
And there may be other things that crop up Thursday night on the floor itself, but
I think so.
I think the important thing is that, you know, we started this well over a year ago. You know, and I was a member of the committee with you until I assumed this position here. And it was a very contentious issue. There wasn't a lot of common ground, but you guys worked extremely hard. Tremendous effort. I commend you. You came up with a document that is very, very good. You know, can things be improved upon? And they will be. Like we said, we got a couple recommendations already, and that's good. But I think we have something that we can work with here. And I appreciate all the effort that went into that. Any other questions by the board? Comments?
I have one quick one. Will, it's a methodology question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you wouldn't happen to know whether this was a sample or random sample? Yeah. It was. Do you know what type of random sample was used? Yeah.
You got me on that one.
No. Well, we can find out
Yeah.
before town meeting, because it would reflect on the statistical significance. 11.5% return rate may not sound like very much, but it may in fact be a very significant rate. So we'll find out.
Absolutely.
Very good. Anything else? Hearing nothing. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the article as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I oppose only because of that, the overlay map.
Okay.
I mean, I really feel good
It's
about
fine.
this set of bylaws that you folks have put together.
So what was the
We
vote of
need
the board?
I was an aye.
What were you, Helen? I'm sorry.
An aye.
An aye. So 3-2, okay. Vote is 3-2. Thank you,
Thank
ladies
you all
and
very
gentlemen,
much.
for all
I
your
really
efforts and-
appreciate you guys working with us on this. And please come to town meeting and endorse this. It's a great piece of
If
document.
not before, we'll see you Thursday night.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work that all you folks put in on this.
Article 11, to see if the town will vote to request that the Board of Selectmen not negotiate or execute any tax agreements or payment in lieu of taxes, which is, the term for it is a pilot agreement, for any new solar projects through December 31, 2013, or take any action relative thereto. The explanation of this is in the event that the Solar Bylaw Study Committee's article is not passed. This should actually fall after Article 12, I'm told, so. However, do we have a motion and a second?
Say that again?
This should actually come after Article 12?
But we can't change that now. We have to do
can't
it on
change it.
town
Warrant articles
floor.
It has to be
last.
changed on the town meeting.
Oh, right on the town floor, that's right.
I'll make a motion, we approve Article 11.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, seeing none? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed.
I oppose.
Okay, it's 3-2 again. Gene. Moving on, Article 12, to see if the town will vote to adopt the following warrant item. No tax breaks shall be granted to renewable energy projects located within the town of Carver without approval of 2/3 majority of town meeting. Any tax breaks, as approved by 2/3 majority of town meeting, may only be granted to projects in zones which town zoning bylaws specifically authorize renewable energy projects. Tax breaks may be included in agreements such as, but not limited to, payments in lieu of taxes, again, a pilot agreement, power purchase agreements, referred to as PPAs, and all other such agreements which would effectively assess taxes on land at a value lower than that of the underlying zoning district, and on associated equipment, including standard depreciation, as allowed by state regulations, or take any other action relative thereto. And this is by petition. Is there anybody that represents this petition here at this point in time? Step up, Andy. Please speak into the mic, identify yourself, and then tell us what's going on with this.
Andrew Cardarelli, 19 Popes Point Road. This was brought together by a few people in town just to basically empower the residents of Carver to make an informed decision on whether they want to approve any such project that is offered a tax break or wants a local tax break from the town. As we saw with the Ravenbrook property, the people were given the facts of the project and voted, I think it was almost unanimous by town meeting, and opened the door up for collecting back taxes. On other projects that might come down the line, there might not be such a benefit, and myself and others thought it would be best that if there were going to be tax breaks offered to an individual project, the people of the town should be able to have that choice, because they're going to make up the difference one way or another. So basically that's what this is coming from. This basically, it doesn't say yes or no to any project. This just gives the people of the town the choice if we want to offer a company a tax break and what the benefits are going to be. And it would force the company or entity or person, whoever it's represented by, to come and be transparent with their project and all the details therein. And so it's basically it. Just empowers the people of the town to make a choice.
Can I get a motion and a second from the board so we can open this
I'll
for
make a
discussion?
motion to approve Article 12.
We have a motion,
I'll second it.
and we have a second. It's now open for discussion. Who would like to start? Dick?
Why not? Andy, I agree with you that the town meeting should make decisions for us. I'm not sure how this is going to affect a project that's privately owned and not on commercial land or town land, I'm looking at the town project on 44, and I'm thinking about if that were paying taxes, I think it's a little over $1 million for the panels, which is a lot of money, but they're valuable. And so if you apply our tax rate, our commercial tax rate to that project, that would take the taxes for that small project to over $20,000. And I'm not sure that there's a lot of benefit from, that much benefit from getting money from NSTAR, because there's going to be the owner and the mortgage and all these things. If a property owner would have put them in. Now, would the town vote 2/3 to support that property owner? I'm thinking that might be an obstacle to putting in some solar farm on some private entity in town.
It would only be an obstacle if they came looking to the town for a local tax break. Remember, most of these projects, or if not all of them, get state and federal subsidies or tax breaks already.
To build,
or whatever the yearly tax breaks are, or whatever they're usually generated out, I believe.
Yeah.
It wouldn't stop any project. So say like anybody wanted to put one of these in, if it was done through the bylaw, it was okayed through the town, and the town voted no on it to give someone give an entity a tax break, they could still go ahead. But the project would pay the full boat on taxes like any other business in town.
Which, in the case of the value of these panels, might make it so that they wouldn't be able to do it.
Well,
it's a business decision. I mean, you're looking and you're saying, okay, I'm gonna go investing in all this to see if the town will okay it, and if there were a group that decided they didn't like it and they filled the town meeting, it would be, you know,
That could be that with any question, though.
well, that's true.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, as a business thing, if taxes are that high, I think in many of these projects, and not all, because I talked to Ms. O'Donnell today about the one that she's working on, and she said they're pretty much full taxes on them, but that might not stand up somewhere along the line. But I'm saying that if a farmer did it in the town and the expense of the panels was that high and the taxes were that high, I doubt if they could do it.
But it's not
You
the
know.
responsibility of the
No.
town and the people of the town to make up their loss.
But
You know, I mean, that's the bottom line. If they can't afford to
Okay.
do it, then maybe they shouldn't do it. If they can't afford to do it, then go ahead. But if they want to come to the town and say, we'd like this tax break right here, we'd like, you know, we want to do this project, it's just saying, okay, then come to the town, show us the benefit. What is the town, how is the town going to benefit from this? And why is it worth us giving you that tax break? That's all it's saying. You
Yeah.
know, if they can make the case for the people, just like the Ravenbrook property, the people of town are
how
smart
about
enough
you
to.
amend that to be majority, 50-50?
Well, you could do it on town floor if we wanted, but that's the way we wrote it up here, because like I said, it's, we need, number one, we all know we need money in this town for projects, infrastructure and everything else. Number two, the tax rate on the residential people in this town is already very high, you know, for everything we get, and to live here, and we love to live here. And this was just a way to, almost like a check, to have the people have a say, you know, on, you know what I'm saying? That's basically, it's all it was. And it's not saying one thing one way or another, but I've read and I've seen proposals from other towns that they just automatically give these companies a tax break, and the people are the ones that have to make up the difference. So it's not saying yes or no. Like I said, they want to come, and it's up to the bylaw gets passed. If the town decides to do that, that's fine. I'm getting dry throat here. But if the town says no, if the people say no to it, the entity will have to pay the same amount as every other business in town has to pay. And that's all it is. I mean, it's just making it fair. It's not. It's basically not letting these renewable energy companies be subject to the winners and losers game, basically.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think this begs the question, Andy, that essentially we have been told as a board by a variety of developers of these projects that in many cases, if they don't get some sort of tax break, they're not doable. And you're suggesting, well, that's just tough toenails, and right. But my point is that there are also projects that have and that have come to us in which some taxes are better than no taxes. So one of the projects that came to us, for example, is giving us, I believe it's about 12% of market value, and the land was in chapter land and had to be converted, and we're getting a whole lot more now than we were then. It's also not clear the Route 44 project would have been able to go. So, you know, there are developers who want to do this, want to do it to benefit the town, or maybe want to do it to keep it in some kind of open space so we don't get some sort of negative development. And again, some taxes are better than none.
Right, but I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's
you
okay.
Okay. Well, like I said, that's fine. They could bring that proposal to the town. It's not saying yes or no, but if the town says no, and they still want to come, they can come. But they'll just pay like everybody else. And again, I was thinking about this when this was crafted, and we've heard this before about some companies that just won't come, or it's not worth them doing it. Then
They just can't get the money together.
right, but again, I mean, is someone going to come and bail me out or someone else from other residents in town, if they can't afford to do something?
That's, yeah, well, it's not, that's misdirection.
No,
Let's
it's
just
not-
focus on the
It's
question.
really not, because you're asking the taxpayers to make up the difference.
No, because what's gonna happen is they won't build it here. That's what's gonna happen.
Well, I understand that.
And that's fine, and
Yeah.
that's
Well,
fine.
yeah, I'm just saying
from
that's-
one perspective, but from another perspective, again, some taxes are better than none.
But at the same time, the companies that come, when they do these projects, they're not putting these things out of the goodness of their heart. They're making money. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. And I know they come looking for the tax breaks, and that's fine, but we can say yes or no. And that's just the avenue I and others wanted to give the town.
Your point is duly noted, Andy. I think, from what I'm gleaning from this is, you're saying that if the town is gonna subsidize any of these projects, then it should be up to the townspeople to vote whether they wanna do that or not.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. Jack, did you have a question?
Yeah, you know, my comment on it would be, it's a double-edged sword, you know. You might wanna get 90% of the value, but town meeting might decide to take 5%. They could give whatever break they wanna give, that's what the bylaw says here. So, I mean, you just want the townspeople to be able to vote what type of break that they wanna to give, how much they wanna subsidize.
Well, not how much. The company would have to ask for a certain tax break if they wanted a certain amount. And the town could just say yes or no. You know, just like the Ravenbrook
They could
property.
amend it on town meeting floor, though.
Well, they
They
could.
could amend it to something else.
They could. And but it could also be amended the other way.
Well,
Yeah. So that's why, you know, like I said.
You can look at it from multiple
Exactly,
directions,
yeah.
so.
Yes.
all right, we agree on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not against or, you know, it's not, I mean, everyone, you know, people know, I've been outspoken about about issues. People know I'm not, you know, a wallflower, you know, but this doesn't have anything to do with that. This is just an issue of seeing how well the Ravenbrook property went. The people had the facts. The people acted as adults. They approved that property to the benefit of the town.
yes.
And that's what I wanted to do with, and others wanted to do with any project that comes to town, because the thing I worry about, Ms. Hewens, like you said, a lot of these come looking for tax breaks. So it's almost like automatic, they look for them.
It's the only way they can make their projects work.
Well,
Right.
and let's not forget that Ravenbrook, they owed us a huge amount of back taxes, which we were probably never going to see. So
exactly right.
it's really not a subsidy. It's a question of some taxes versus none in that particular case, and in others too.
That was a perfect case. That was a perfect
Yeah.
case that the previous owner owed the town a good amount of money, and.
But we did get a good value for the panels,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but we didn't have to deep discount it either, but,
That's right.
no, you're right. I think that the townspeople should be able to have the vote, have the right to vote on that.
That's all it is.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we need to give the residents the benefit of the doubt that if a situation like a Ravenbrook came up, that they would absolutely vote in favor if this had gone through. I mean, whether this goes through or not, I personally think that since it came by petition, that means there's enough residents out there that feel it should at least go out as a warrant, and that we should let the residents vote on this.
Dick, last point, Dick.
Oh, no, I just had a question about, it's requiring a two-thirds vote. Does it require a two-thirds vote to pass this article?
No.
So we can.
I checked with the town clerk.
We can pass something by majority requiring a two-thirds vote to follow it up?
That's right.
Really?
I confirmed that before.
Yep.
And also, I wanted to say, I didn't mean to sound coarse about these companies, you know, but saying, well, you know, if they don't get it, well, you know, I didn't mean it to sound like I was being coarse, like tough cookies for them.
We understand where you're coming from, Andy. Okay.
Mike, could I just add one quick procedural thing?
One last one.
Yes, sir. So I just wanted to say that, of course, the vote tonight is not whether or not to recommend this go to town meeting and allow town meeting to vote on it. We did that at our last meeting.
Okay.
The other thing is we can't impede this either, so I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a petition article by the citizens, so. But we are taking a vote to show whether our support, how it breaks down or whatever the case may be. All right. Having beat this issue halfway to death, we have a motion and a second.
Right.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-2. Thank you, Mr. Cottarelli. Have a good evening. All right. We're ready for Thursday night, I think, right? Certainly not last, and certainly not the least. Power purchase agreement with no fossil fuels. Come on down. All sides, all parties, all participants. You can sit together, show everybody how much you like each other, and
Would it be helpful, Mr. Chairman, to have maybe Mr. Hunter give a 2-minute overview to help frame this?
absolutely.
To help frame this concisely, Jack, so that we can.
Mary and Mike, you want to sit up here with your new best friend? Go ahead and sit up here with Jack.
Come on up here, Mary Milas.
Michael, join him, go ahead. Let's get all our cards on the table and let's get this thing done, one way or another.
Just since the last, well, like maybe 2 meetings ago, I can't remember the last time I came in front of you. I've been working with Town Council Rick Holland, who's here, and who's been working with Mary's council, Mr. Clavens, on trying to come to an agreement. I think you're very, very close. I think the big issues have been solved about how much you're gonna buy and the liability and the protection and all that. And it came, at least in my mind, I know lawyers are lawyers, I'll let them speak, but it's this whole hosting issue and what that means. I'm fine with it. I understand it more than I've ever known before and never thought I'd know. And it was brought to me very simply that if we were buying all of Mary's energy, we would be the host. We wouldn't have a choice. And I've been at least somewhat assured by our council that the hosting is not such a big deal and that there will be protections in there for us. I don't know if you guys have any other issues that I didn't bring up, but.
You know, we asked the attorneys to vet this, so I think what we'd like to do is hear from both sides. And whoever wants to kick it off.
Excuse me, before they start, can you tell me which power purchase agreement is accurate? The
The
one
one
that
I-
was emailed to us, or the one
Today.
that?
The one I sent today is the most recent.
Yes.
The one that's
So
in
the
our
one that was
packet.
in my packet that I picked up tonight?
I
Would have
don't
been
know that.
the last one, the one that
Okay.
was sitting here on, I'm sorry, the one that was sitting here on the table tonight is the latest,
Oh, okay.
absolute latest.
I
I did
don't-
not know that.
Yes.
There's so many of them, this one.
It's this one, isn't it
Yep.
this one?
Yeah.
Got it,
This is,
yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, pleasure to be here with you tonight. My name is Rick Holland, Copeland and Page, Town Council. And as Jack has said, I've been working with counsel for the developer to negotiate the non-price terms of the power purchase agreement. And we're about 99.9% there. I too got a version from counsel for the developer this morning. I believe he sent it last evening. And so there are some final tweaking to be done. The issue that brought us here, as Jack had mentioned, was the question of whether the town wished to be host customer for the facility. And as Jack has also mentioned, if you were to purchase all of the credits from the facility, you would, of course, be the host customer. And that's typical in arrangements such as that. The difference here is that you would not be purchasing all of the credits from the facility, only a portion. And so we've worked out the agreement such that the developer would be responsible to sell these credits elsewhere. And I believe the other purchaser would be the regional school district. And so, as Jack has also mentioned, we have dealt with the risk involved with being a host customer and some of the liability concerns through language within the agreement. And I think we've addressed that appropriately, as we do in these types of agreements. But as I said, I felt that we needed direction from the board regarding whether the town was prepared to be host customer for the entire facility. Having said that, I know that the board may have a number of questions or comments, and we can have that discussion.
Now, we've already voted to accept the project.
Right.
So do we need to start another vote to open it for questions?
Well, I think you should, but I would agree that you've addressed and did accept essentially the financial terms and conditions as Mr. Holland had outlined. So what we're really doing now is discussing or completing the language of the agreement. And
Right.
the last thing that was on the table was the issue of hosting. So I think you should open it up to discuss that issue, Mr. Chairman, and hopefully keep it as narrow as you can. And
Well, there was also the issue of the amount of energy,
right.
and I'm looking for that. I don't know where that is.
It's described as a percentage. It's 40%, which is about 2.6? 2.4 megawatts.
And what page is that on?
I didn't bring it. I'm gonna, Mr. Clavens has it up on the screen there.
Clavens.
And what do we have available to us? We have three?
Well,
3.4?
I'm glad
We
you
used
asked that.
4.
As we learned, when we started this process and we had the consultant vet the 2 projects, which probably these guys didn't even know about, we use about 3.5 megawatts. We have already committed 1 megawatt, which leaves you 2.5. But
Can you
there's-
speak louder, Jack? Sorry.
But 2.5, we have 1, we use 3.5, we have 1 allocated, but there's the
Buffer.
the gross up. There's a gross up which will give us, in my opinion, almost a megawatt still free for hopefully our landfill or the school roof or something like that. So in my opinion, that's the direction I know I got from you, was as long as we left that as available and savings, which we could get here for 2.4 and we have 1 sold, we're okay.
Well,
That's the question.
yeah,
Is that your understanding?
I have been predominantly focused on negotiating the non-price terms. In terms of the percentage that the town is going to purchase and the price, that was decided, as far as my understanding was concerned, prior to this matter being presented.
We started at 2.
Is that correct?
We started at 2, and then I know I had talked to Mike about 2 point, actually Mary wanted us to buy 3, and we negotiated down to 2.4.
And I think the trick with these things is you don't want to purchase more credits that
Right.
you can use to offset
Yeah.
your utility costs. And
Right.
it's been my understanding that, Jack, you've gone through that calculation.
We had a consultant do that, and we're about 4, you're right, of including gross up.
Okay.
conversely, the tax credits for this thing may disappear at some point in time, and these other projects down the road may never materialize.
That's true.
So you're betting a kilowatt, or whatever, of energy that we could be getting at a very much reduced rate from current prices, that down the road, we're gonna be able to do the same thing. And I think that that's a significant gamble in this environment. So,
But I think we've also been advised that you don't want to buy as much as you use, because that doesn't give you any wiggle room for conservation efforts, for anything else. I mean,
Well,
you don't want to go all the way up to what you currently use.
Right, and I think that's one reason why we moved kind of off the 2 megawatt dime a little bit, by, again, 4.4, almost half a meg, because, again, those are the competing interests at work here, yeah.
Right.
and also additionally, if these other projects down the road take off, they can sell their credits to other entities that want to buy them, other towns, other businesses.
That's true, Mike.
Is that true?
Yes, but, if it's our project and we can guarantee, if we go out, say we did the landfill, just hypothetically,
Right.
and we went out to bid and said, we guarantee you a buyer, us. It's a lot more attractive than, we have the landfill, you go find the buyer, but it can't be us. Well, then they gotta go do what Mary's doing.
Are we gonna
So
be-
it's more competitive.
Are we gonna be guaranteed that we're gonna get 10 cents or less?
No,
No, we're not.
absolutely not.
So, again, I hearken back to my previous comment that we're taking a
That's-
significant gamble by not taking what we can get, what's on the table right now.
Well, that's your guys' decision, not
Yes.
mine.
From my minimal understanding of this entire issue, I'm starting to learn a few things,
Yeah, we
catching
all
on
are.
a few things. So, I would disagree with you that 2.5 is an agreed-upon level. I think we should max out, that's my personal opinion.
Okay.
And then if other projects crop up, maybe things will change by then. You know, maybe there'll be different circumstances. Maybe we'll have more usage, more town buildings, or whatever the case may be. Electric cars. Electric cars, yes. Please.
If the board wants, we're at 40% now, and the number is in Exhibit C, all the way in the back of the agreement. And I'm John Clavens, I'm counsel to No Fossil Fuel.
Thank you, John, and welcome to both of you gentlemen tonight. Thank you for being here.
So it says 50% here.
Oh, it should say 40.
In the last version, it's the 50 is crossed out and says 40.
Exhibit C.
Yeah, I have 50 in mine.
Okay, I have 50.
Oh, so you
One of
don't
the
have
reasons
the
I
last
raised my
one.
hand was
I
if
see
the
50.
board thought
Yeah.
it wanted to hedge its bets
Mhm.
and go from 40 to 50, we could accommodate that.
Well,
I just think, you know, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush.
which agreement is right? Because now you said 40, the one, this says 50.
50.
Yeah,
I have
I
50
think
in
that,
mine. I have 50 in
I
mine,
think
too.
the one you have is not the most recent I sent you. Again, this all happened today, and I did email you guys a version.
No,
which
we
says
were
40.
just told that this was the most recent.
Well,
Eagle eye there, Helen.
maybe they're mistaken. But anyway, I don't think
No, mine
there's,
says 50.
Okay.
Well, I think, again, that's a detail that's gonna be included in the final
Right.
document.
You
The
tell us the
issue is-
percent you
The issue
want.
is understanding, you know, how much in real terms megawatts, because that's what we're used to talking in, is megawatts. How much we're committed to here, that's the question.
Correct.
How much you're willing to commit to. That's,
Ian, what we're
rest of it-
reading.
the rest of it's language.
Is that in the document anywhere, the amount of
Ian, reading, what we're
megawatts?
reading.
Because it's hard to imagine that we're going to be using more than, 4.
All right, well, you know,
in the document, it says they are selling 6, and the last version I saw was we did buy 40% of 6 megawatts.
why don't we do,
Now,
why don't we
they're
do
off.
this in increments so we don't muddy the waters, okay?
Which would have been, what, 2.4?
The biggest stumbling
That's what I
block till now was being the host community issue. Let's resolve that, and then we can go back and take a look and get everybody's feelings on what we should do for a rate of kilowatts. Can we do that? Okay, let's go back to the host community. Who was talking on that?
So, the question, as I said, is whether the town wishes to be host customer for this facility in order for it to qualify for the largest net metering credit value, and also for it to fit within the public cap, and for them, frankly, to be able to do the 6 megawatts on one parcel. You're gonna need a municipality or other governmental entity to be host customer. So it's my understanding that the question has been whether the town of Carver would be host customer or the Silver Lake Regional School District, and that one of them needs to be the host customer. And there are some, pros and cons to this. As I said earlier, if you were gonna buy all of the energy from the facility, you would be host customer. The difference here is that you're not gonna be buying all of the energy.
Right. Do you see that as a detriment, Mr. Holland?
Well, no, I think one of the pros is you certainly get to decide how much of the 6 megawatts you want to buy. If you're going to be the host customer, you get first dibs in terms
First
of
dibs,
choosing
okay.
how much you want to buy. Some of the cons is as host customer, and again, remember, if you were host customer, if you were buying all the energy, you would be host customer.
Right.
And this is very typical, and in fact is the issue for all host customers. All municipalities hold host customers on these types of facilities. You'd enter into an agreement with the utility. You'd be the customer on the meter, just as you're the customer on the meter at your home. And so there is a certain element of risk involved in that, in terms of you may incur certain charges, for example, possibly, perhaps remotely, some liability. But what we do in the power purchase agreement, as we do in others like this type of agreement, is shift that risk and liability to the developer.
And you have done that?
And we've done that in the
Okay.
language, right. And so, knowing that, we just need to know whether Carver would like to be the host customer for the facility or not. It's my understanding that the regional school district is not interested in being the host customer. Having said that, if anybody has questions or comments or wishes to hear from the developers council.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Ladies first.
Thank you. On what you had just mentioned about shifting the risk to liability to the developer, what protects us if the developer was to go bankrupt?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I mean, if the developer went bankrupt and you had some indemnification claim against the developer, you probably wouldn't see that recovery, frankly.
Okay.
So,
And the other point I had brought up the other evening was the administrative costs, that it's too much of an unknown.
Can I shift you back for a second?
Certainly.
As far as the liability goes, I mean, should the developer go bust on this, then it just stops, right?
if the developer goes bankrupt, then obviously they're not likely going to be providing you any energy, and you don't have to buy credits if you're not receiving them. Now, what would probably happen, based upon the current version or latest version of the document, is one of the financing parties would likely step in the shoes of the developer, assuming the developer is bankrupt, and then seek to cure that insolvency essentially by stepping in and operating the facility.
Okay.
Now, the question that I meant to address, and I'm sorry if I confused matters, is in the event that there was some liability that was incurred that would trigger this indemnification language that I'm talking about, and the developer had no money to pay it, then sure, that would be a problem. It's hard to foresee or predict what could happen in the future, but that is one of the concerns, and it is certainly a risk for all those customers, and I feel my colleague here is itching.
Your brother is ready to jump there.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Please have at it, Mr. Clapp.
Right. Well, it's important to understand what the host customer is and isn't. The term came about from more old-style distributed generation when you had a business or a home and you had generation on the site. Maybe it was owned by you, maybe it was owned by a third party, but it was your property. You'd understand there might be some more liability there. This is really different. This is being really a host customer on paper. You don't own the facility, you don't own the land, you're not financing the facility, you have no responsibility for operating and maintaining the facility. Your name is on the meter the same way if your kid was in another state at college, because they're not making any money, they might have the electricity or the phone bill in your name and you pay it.
You have to strike me where it hurts, huh?
Yeah, right, exactly. But you don't own the meter, you don't maintain the meter, you don't enter the site even for a minute, unless you want to.
So this is the closest to a free lunch we'll ever get.
Let me, if I may.
Nothing's free.
My colleague here. I mean, let me give a counterpoint, and I don't mean for this to get away from us.
Sure.
I think, if you want to buy credits at the highest credit value, the municipality has to be the host customer. Communities are doing it throughout the state. So I certainly don't want to make this to be bigger than it is. But the counterpoint to my colleague's comment is, I'd rather be in control of something that could possibly cause me liability than not be in control of it. My concern, and I know lawyers tend to over-lawyer things, and I'll be the first to say that I'm sometimes guilty of that. And I'm not seeking to do that here. But we all know that in one of the concerns that comes to my mind is in the event that something happens at the facility, and as my colleague stated, you don't own it, you're not out there, you have no control over it, but your name is on the meter. What's going to happen if something happens and someone's sued? Oh, who is the customer on the meter? Hence my concern. And so what we do is try to address that in language in the power purchase agreement, which we've done here. The point raised earlier is a good one. That's a point that's a risk wherever a community is a host customer on this type of facility. And the most we can do, as I said, is to address it by shifting that risk in the agreement, which I believe we've done in this document.
Go ahead, Helen, follow up with you.
Can I?
Yeah.
You also mentioned that when we entered into the agreement with utility that we would incur charges. What type of charges? And again, you say that you're going to shift it to the developer, but my biggest concern, and it still weighs heavy on me, is throughout all these discussions, we keep mentioning the unknowns. And this is still scary for me to make a decision for this town on a lot of unknowns. So what would be the possible charges that could be incurred in case the developer goes belly up? God willing, it won't happen, but we read in the news every day that companies are going belly up. So I just want to make sure that we're not going to hold any liability.
There are some demand charges, and I think Council of the Developer may also wish to speak on the issue of solvency.
Sure. So a couple of things. The way the agreement works is the host customer is the customer of record for the meter. The facility uses almost no electricity at all because its sole purpose is to generate electricity far, far in excess of the tiny, tiny amount that it uses. So on each monthly N-Star bill, there'd be, I think, a $10 customer charge and then maybe up to a couple $100 of demand charges at most. Those charges, the way the agreement currently reads, would be paid by the host customer and immediately reimbursed in a billing credit to the host customer, and the invoices between us. The purpose is not to impose any financial burdens on whichever purchaser is the host customer. Absolutely not. Mr. Holland also mentioned the agreement between the host customer and the utility. There is an agreement, it's called generically a customer interconnection acknowledgement agreement. And it really just tells N-Star that you as the customer whose name is on the meter is agreeing to have somebody else own and operate a facility behind your meter. The interconnection agreement, the really heavy-duty agreement with operating requirements and insurance requirements, is not signed by the host customer, is signed by the facility owner. So that's really important to understand.
If I may add something, I did not bring that agreement with me. I should have, as I was running out the door, but I believe that agreement contains, for example, an indemnification obligation. So the agreement with the utility is a contract. And I just want to make sure that that's not lost in the comments that council has made.
And should the developer go bankrupt, whoever steps in, whether it be financial organization or investors or whatever, they would still be held accountable for that same agreement, right?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
the town as a host customer would not have any obligation with respect to ownership, operation, maintenance, repair of this facility. It's a paper host customer.
I have just one quick.
Go ahead, sir.
So I just want to be really clear. So if we decide to become the host customer, those liabilities will permanently be shifted to the developer, the ones that you talked about earlier?
Yes, we would be shifting them by the language in the contract to the developer. That's correct.
Thank you.
Jack?
If they go bankrupt and we're the host customer, we consider to be a creditor. And the reason I'm asking that is because in bankruptcy, as you know, you have secured creditors and then unsecured claims. And where would our position be?
Well, you'd be a creditor to the extent that the seller owes you money.
But as far as us receiving any sort of proceeds from any sale of the, or taking over, we might end up incurring expenses that would never get reimbursed for.
No, I would agree with the comment, actually, that Attorney Clavens has said, that to the extent that the developer owes you money, then you would be in the position of a creditor.
But would it be unsecured or secured?
You'd be unsecured.
Which is lower down the food chain.
That's correct, lower down the food chain than a secured. The financing parties would.
I'm just looking at exposure as far as monetary damages that the town would have to incur.
Can I interrupt? Can I ask, what kind of money would we be talking about? Just the $10 a month, or?
Well, we're sort of predicting what might happen in the future based on some perhaps remote possibility.
Or promised
We might have
revenue.
some liabilities host customers, so it's difficult to do without a crystal ball.
I would rather have it be ironclad. I don't care if it's a penny or $10 or $10,000.
I certainly
want
agree
it to
with
be ironclad that there's no cost whatsoever for the town, because in listening to you and saying that we're only a name on the meter and stuff, then what's the purpose of having a host customer?
Right, well, I certainly agree with you,
Yeah.
because, and I certainly try the best I can to make sure that we're fully protected. I'm obligated, of course, to raise the issue that there's a risk involved when you're a host customer, but it's unavoidable when you're gonna be a host customer in a facility and buy the credits from it, whether it be this or any other facility. A municipality has to be a host customer on a facility such as this, at this size, in order for the credit value to include what's called the distribution charge. And so that's why Carver is being asked to be the host customer here. One other issue, and I apologize to the
No, that's fine.
before I lose it. The other issue on the other host customer issue is, even though you'll be purchasing 40% of the credits, you would have the full 6 megawatts counted towards your 10 megawatt net metering services cap. Now, let me explain that briefly. Every municipality can get net metering services, in other words, get these credits for up to 10 megawatts. That's it. Above that, you can still do your facilities, but you won't get net metering services. So this full 6 megawatts, even though you would not be purchasing it all, that full 6 megawatts would count towards your cap. Now, that may not be an issue for Carver, depending upon your usage. I don't know that you'd ever expect to exceed 10, but that's just an issue that I should raise.
Does that mean it would behoove us to buy as much as we can to begin with? Since we're being,
No, it would mean that we wouldn't have very much left, more wiggle room left.
Actually, you'd have quite a lot
yeah,
left.
you're talking about a phenomenal amount of
The 10
electricity.
megawatts is measured in AC terms as opposed to DC terms. Our facility would be 6 megawatts AC, but only 4.5.
No,
Right?
DC, it's 6 megawatts DC.
Yeah, right.
4.56 AC.
Right, about 4.5, 4.6 AC. So of the ability that Carver has to be host customer of net metering facilities generally, we'd use less than half of it. Carver could still be the host customer of more than 5 megawatts AC of facilities in the future, more than it sounds as if your consultant figured you could ever use.
I agree with that.
Dick. So we could be the host community even if we took 40%.
Yes.
I was thinking 50, you had to be at least 50 or more to be, okay.
No, there's no minimum.
Yep.
And I'd also say, it's really this paper host customer, not a host community. In view of the prior discussion from the meeting, we're not asking for any special permits or consideration in Carver and no tax breaks from Carver. We only want to provide energy savings to you.
And conversely, we're not putting any money up either.
That's correct.
And that's why we're not in the first position as a lien holder. So, other questions?
Is this, this 40% of the 6 megawatts, is that AC or DC?
Well, 40% would be true whether you're measuring an AC
I
or
know,
DC.
but what are we measuring in here, the number,
Um,
the 2.4 megawatts?
That's DC.
Thanks.
Have we addressed the administrative issues and concerns being a host? At all?
I could speak to that if you like. There are a few really minor administrative burdens associated with being the host customer. On the front end, we together have to file a net metering service application called the Schedule Z. It's like a 1-2-2-page document. It's very easy to fill out. We would fill it out for you. The backside of it would be information we get from you about your accounts and what percent of the 40% to allocate to various town accounts of the net metering credits. You'd provide that information. We'd put it together for you. You'd have to provide that information to us whether you were the host customer or not. So you got your net metering credits. And we would present it to you for signature, and we would file it with the Department of Public Utilities. Down the line, if you wanted to change your allocation, you wanted more to go to the high school and less to go to town hall, we need to file an amended Schedule Z. You'd want to do that anyway, even if you were not the host customer. If the Silver Lake Regional School District wanted to change its allocation within its percentage, we would, again, need to prepare an amended form, have you sign it. Again, we're doing the work and just coming to you and saying, you can review it and sign it. Beyond that, there's, every month, NSTAR would send out a bill. There would be an immediately reimbursed payment of that bill. But it would also give the opportunity to be on the front lines and see, not just from us, but from NSTAR, a third-party source, exactly what's being generated and what's being credited. So I think that's actually one of the benefits of being a host customer.
It seemed more involved, the monthly bill portion of it seemed like there was a lot more involved at the last meeting we discussed. You seemed to make it sound like it's just gonna be, we receive a bill and not have to do anything with it. What would we have to do? Because the way I understood it at the last meeting was we were gonna have to reconcile these bills. We were gonna receive them monthly. If there were other communities involved, such as Silver Lake, that we were gonna be responsible for their portion of the bill?
No.
No.
No, the only thing that the host customer is responsible for is the tiny amount of electricity that's used on the site. And not only responsible until we know what the amount is and then we immediately credit it against what we're invoicing you.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Helen. I think the concern we had and part of our knowledge gap was physically what has to happen every month. A bill comes in, okay, well now what? What does somebody then in the town of Carver have to do with that bill? Other than, obviously, you gotta pay the bill, but what then? Does it then have to be mailed to somebody? Does it have to, do we have to go on and, some website and, I mean, what do you do with the bill when we get it, other than pay it?
Right.
That's the question.
Well, so we can reimburse you as fast as we possibly can. We'd want you to send it to us.
So we send the bill to you.
Right.
Right, but we could also work that out electronically. So just like you can log on to your NSTAR or Verizon account and see your bill and pay it, we could work out in practice that we have electronic access to that account, which doesn't have any other town information other than about our site, really.
But we're not tracking down any usage by any other purchasers like
No.
Silver Lake. We have no responsibility to do that, track that.
No, and I should say that too, we've structured these deals so that the host customer has no responsibility for finding purchasers for the net metering credits it's not receiving. No responsibility for sending out invoices to those other purchasers. No responsibility if those other purchasers don't pay. It's entirely on us.
So then we don't have to receive payment from them
No.
either?
No.
And Mr. Holland, you agree that that's the structure of the agreement is such that it accomplishes that?
Yes, the structure of the agreement that's correct. That's the way it's written.
So for all intents and purposes, we pay our electric bills the same way we've always paid them, other than maybe paying them online to you, and then the other portion of it is we pay for the expenses of the facility, the small amount of electricity that it might use at the facility, and then get reimbursement from you. Am I correct? Is that what the host customer does?
Right, the credits will show up on your utility invoice as a credit. You'd be paying the invoices to the developer for the credits that you're buying, and that any charges associated with being host customer would then be reimbursed by the developer.
And those charges would be the use at the facility, that minute amount of electricity.
Right, and the big difference the town would see was as you got your bill from the account for the high school, all of a sudden the bill was like this, now it's going to be like this. Because from that, just few pieces of paper we file with NSTAR at the beginning of the project that says where the credits are allocated to, NSTAR puts that into their system and then automatically allocates those credits. So we don't have to do anything affirmative. You don't have to do anything affirmative for those credits to be transferred every month. NSTAR does that automatically.
Then why is a host needed?
It's a fluke of our net metering regulatory program.
Exactly.
It's a fluke of the statute.
It's the government. You gotta text box stuff.
We're the government.
It's simply the way the regulations were written.
They have to know who's the account holder. Who do they send these funds to?
It's a nameplate, right? It's the nameplate.
Now, the naive question, as this becomes more and more popular, this is just a hypothetical question that I'm just kind of curious about. So we start saving all this money and NSTAR starts not making as much money. How long will it take before NSTAR finds a way to make up that difference somehow and this all goes in vain?
Well, guess what? NSTAR already has.
Okay, this is my point.
You wouldn't be surprised. NSTAR makes the same amount of money exactly. And part of what's happening is that the on-site generation NSTAR is purchasing, it can use that electricity or sell it in the wholesale market. So they're not providing a subsidy that's the whole value of the net metering credit. They're getting something of value because all of the physical electricity is going to them, to their custody, to do what they want with. There's some subsidy remaining, and that's socialized across the rate base. So ratepayers pick up that difference.
Ratepayers being?
You and I. She catches on quick, huh?
Just wanted to make sure I understood.
And so, you know, the trick with these agreements, so long as what you're paying per kilowatt hour is always less than the credit value, then you're making out. And that's the trick, so long as that credit value goes up and not down.
So the benefit to the everyday Joe Schmo out there, like myself and...
Me.
Yeah, I'm just being honest. Like, when residents ask us, why did we approve this? What is the benefit for them?
Well, for this project, for the, even just at the 40% level, over the term of the power purchase agreement, the town should save about $3 million, making some reasonable assumptions. So I think the message to the taxpayers of Carver is, that's a whole lot of taxes that we either don't have to collect, or if we collect, we can spend on other things.
And let me just...
We're gonna collect them and we're gonna spend them.
I don't mean to be the fellow that throws the wrench or anything.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Well, it's important to know one of the, right, Mr. Chairman, one of the important assumptions here is that the net meter and credit value doesn't dip below the fixed price you're paying. So if you're paying that 10 cents per kilowatt hour, and if the credit is, say, 13 cents, as long as it doesn't go down to 9 cents, as long as it's above 10 cents, then the assumption that you will benefit throughout the term would be correct.
Right, I remember seeing that.
But nobody has a crystal ball. You know what I mean?
Chances are electricity costs aren't going to go down.
Right. That would be the safe hedge. According to my booking.
Oh, really?
I didn't say that. All right.
What's a bookie?
Talk to me afterwards.
City girl.
Yeah, from Dorchester. She doesn't know what a bookie is, please. We've beat the host community issue to death. Everybody had some questions. Everybody had some concerns. Is everybody satisfied that they've at least heard the answers, whether they like them or not, from our representatives?
As long as they're honest and truthful and it
As
comes
long as
to
it's in the paper that
fruition.
we're gonna sign.
That's right.
That's what counts.
As long as the lawyer has a good malpractice insurance.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Teasing.
It's all right, we've heard all the lawyer jokes.
Now, how do we want to do this? Because I want to revisit,
You guys write them, don't you?
I want to revisit the amount of electricity we purchase.
Yeah, final.
You might want to just take a...
Take a vote on the host?
vote on the host community,
Okay.
feelings on that.
Then we can hammer out the other thing and hopefully
Along with
quick
the
and
other-
whatever everybody wants.
Go home.
All right. Can I get a motion in a second to approve this?
Make a motion that we approve the host.
And I'll
portion of
second.
the-
We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion by the august members of this board? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Jim.
No, it's not
Oh,
yet.
I'm sorry.
Because I
I thought I saw you raise
maybe,
your
we-
hand.
We were
I
just
wouldn't
doing the
mind
host
ma-
portion.
The host portion is fine as long as we see the final in writing. You know, that this, everything he
That's what
says.
they're doing, Helen.
Okay.
Putting a contract together. That's what we've just been talking about.
So we'll be able to sign off on the final contract? You know what I mean?
Yes.
With, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm
I'll
gonna
feel
take
co-
that course Thursday on host.
Okay, then I'll feel comfortable doing it, as
Mr.
long as we
Clavens?
can see the final agreement.
Yeah, the
Mentioning
provision's
everything that
talking
was said.
about that we're responsible for the host customer charges
Mhm.
and the negotiated, toughly negotiated broad indemnity
Shifting the
in
liability.
favor of the town.
Yeah.
That's in the last version you have, and that's final. That won't change.
Well, there's errors in this, so I'd rather see the final, because it's in the draft format, because there's already.
Do you have one on your email? Jack said he sent it out to all of us.
That's
That
not
was
right
this
either.
afternoon.
I didn't pull it off either, so I don't.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll
But you're
resolve
saying
that.
that wasn't correct either, correct?
That's the problem when there's multiple
No, no,
versions.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying that that was the latest version, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so,
Just to let you know, we've satisfied your concerns. It's in the document, and I'm sure it'll be circulated appropriately.
Okay.
But
Thank
nothing
you.
further to be negotiated on that.
thank you.
All right,
Okay, yes.
good?
Mhm.
Let's talk about
The amount.
how much we want. I want it all,
I know you do.
but why don't we start it off? Jack, why don't you give us your thoughts on it?
Well, the last that we agreed to in concept was 40%.
Hmm.
And I think that was, what, 2.4?
Correct.
So I'm satisfied with that.
Sarah?
Yeah, that's my feeling too, and I would appreciate hearing from town council about your advice as to why we should not buy all of our whole 4 megs.
Mr. Chairman? Sure. I always recommend, of course, and this is obvious, not buying more than you can use. Then the question is, should you buy as much as you could use? And that's certainly up to the board. I just simply suggest that folks consider whether in the future they may want to do their own projects, or whether they might do energy conservation projects that might reduce their load. Your load may continue to go up. You may not want to do future projects, but if you do wish to consider that, you may wish to consider then is leaving yourself some room.
Very good. Dick?
Well, I was thinking, the contract reads, this is the latest contract, 50%?
No, it's
40% is on the latest
Right.
contract.
And if I can, how that happened was, I thought we walked away, maybe it was a month ago now, maybe 6 weeks, with 2. Mary wanted 3, and we kind of internally talked about 2.4.
So is 40% 2.4?
Yes, yes. That's how we got there,
Right.
knowing it didn't come to you guys.
And that,
Right.
that was more of a refined number that would reserve capacity if there were other projects that were.
Right, we were told that
Landfill
Crystal
or,
Lake needed 3.6, and that made the 6.
Silver Lake, you
That's
mean.
Silver Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Silver Lake.
Crystal Lake, did I say?
Didn't work out okay.
What did they wind up needing? Do we know?
I thought that Michael, I thought.
Speak into the mic, please.
Mary, can you guys use the mic?
Use the mic.
What,
Pass it back and forth.
Question is, how much does Silver Lake need, right?
Right. And I thought that they needed 3.6 and you were 2.4, so that was perfect.
Right.
And then the last thing I heard is that they only needed 3. So, I don't know. I think that the cleanest way is if you're both 50-50, then it's 3 and 3, and then whatever or we could work it out with them later if they want more and you want less. I mean, you get, as the host customer, to change it every 6 months. So if you wanted to swap out with them, you could always do that.
So that would be my next question, Mary.
Right, but let me tell you, if I were doing it and I was making money, and I think once you start seeing what's going to happen, I think whoever owns it's not going to give it up, or they're going to be, because you do run a big risk of, these deals are very difficult. You would think that they would be easy, but even like you went through earlier with them siting to do them, you'd think wind, okay, wind is always more difficult to site, but solar, who could be against solar? Well, we've all seen that there's a lot. So there's a lot to this. So the fact, and there's nothing like, my mother always said, a bird in the hand's worth 3 in the bush. You've got your bird in the hand. And the town obviously it needs it. And I loved her saying that you don't do 2.5 overrides. So this is one well-run, well-oiled town. So why wouldn't you use it all? And the fact that it's going to go down, even if you have all the conservancy measures, which we all try to do, we use more. we use, we can cut it back, but then we get more computers, we get more this, we get more electric cars. We're users of electricity, period.
But we can review this every 6 months.
Yeah, you can.
And if we want to ratchet up our purchasing, we can, if it hasn't already been purchased by somebody
No,
else.
no, it's gonna go under contract. It's gonna be 100% of this facility.
Okay.
Is going to get used because that's the financial stipulations. Now, if you don't want it and they don't want it, and there still is a small portion,
4% or something.
we can sell it. I mean, there's other municipalities who are in line for it. I just think it's much cleaner. There's just two of you. It's easier. I was committed to Carver first. I was committed to Silver Lake. And the reason I told you before, when I needed those numbers of their accounts and they didn't make a nickel to do my wind, they gave it to me. So when John said to me, you can use those same accounts again, they can make money, I flew right back to them, okay?
So with the 6 credits, there would only be 2 of us on there. So as the host community, there's just us and one other entity
Right.
purchasing. We don't have to worry about other multiple entities being
I think it's cleaner, and we're not talking that much. You're talking a difference of 0.6, not even a full megawatt. 0.6% of a 60% of 1 megawatt. So.
Rick, what's our town usage right now?
3.5.
It's 3.5 in.
Well, and with the,
We have a meg
What about the
already.
paddock bog?
That's
that's a
without,
megawatt.
that's a megawatt,
So that brings it down even further.
correct.
What did you say the figure was, the usage?
3.5.
No, and then with the gross up, it comes to about 4.
3.5
Plus
comes
the
to
gross.
2.5.
So let's not forget that.
It's the gross.
The gross up it brings it to
Four
something like
megawatts.
that. So minus the one
So
that we've got
2.1,
contracted.
we're in the ballpark. And if
Right.
we go to 3,
You still have
could
more.
be over our usage.
No.
And could I ask a question about, you said every 6 months we can reevaluate this, but then we can't.
You have to do it with
Can we-
Silver Lake.
Can
That's
we hear
the
what our
problem.
council has to say?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm just confused because I'm not sure what Ms. O'Donnell is speaking about. In terms of, if you're gonna buy 40%, they're gonna sell the rest to whomever they want it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it could be the district, it could be 5 other public entities.
Yeah.
They would just be listed on the Schedule Z. I'm not sure what the other 6 months is, unless Ms. O'Donnell is, and forgive me, is referring to the filing of the Schedule Z.
Yeah,
which I
I'm
believe
just
you can
saying
do.
that you can use, like what John was saying, either, instead of the high school using it, somebody else, they're using it. Not, internally,
So
that's
So you
all.
can
So
change the
it's totally
accounts to which you
Right,
send your credits.
right, that's what I'm saying.
But
every
other than
6
that, we're
months.
probably pretty well locked in if what we purchase now, and that's it.
Can I add one other thing? In the version I emailed to you, not the one you have, Mary has till March 31st to contract the rest. Otherwise, you can go off and the contract's void. Correct?
Can I throw one more,
Go
just
ahead,
one
go
last
ahead,
question
yep.
out there? I'm just curious, my mind's racing. In regards to the meters, how are they monitored? Do we, in terms of being able to track the meters?
He's my meter expert, trust me.
Yeah, that's a great question. This is Michael Fournette, by the way, with No Fossil Fuel. So we have kind of a pulse monitoring system that monitors what the meters are doing. Any discrepancy, we're able to find what it's supposed to what it's making. We're able to go and kind of, it's in our best interest to make as much as possible. So if we think that there's something wrong with the meter, we go back to NSTAR and we have contacts who we go through and kind of prove our case to. So you can see that there's kind of a accountability here with what NSTAR is reporting, and then NSTAR knows that we have a pulse monitoring system that we're also viewing what their meter's doing.
Thank you. And do I remember it was in the contract, there was something about the testing of the meters? Or is it not in the contract? Because, I mean,
That's correct. There's a provision in there that, to the extent that it's owned and maintained, it's maintained by the utility, then we can make the necessary arrangements to have that tested with NSTAR in accordance with NSTAR guidelines.
at any time, if we felt like something was not right with the summary of the numbers that we're getting, we weren't comfortable, could we ask for a test?
Well, I think there'll be a difference between whether the developer is gonna maintain it or N-Star.
Okay.
Do you know how that's gonna be done for you?
Yeah,
Whether you're gonna maintain it?
Usually the N-Star is, the meter is owned and maintained by N-Star.
Mhm.
That's actually one other
Okay.
benefit of being the host customer,
Mhm.
is that technically you are the N-Star's customer. So without asking our permission, you can go right to N-Star and say, I want this tested. It's
Okay.
not a huge benefit, but it
No,
does
good.
address that concern.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that critical point. I think we beat
You're
this to
almost
death.
there, I can tell.
Does anybody else have anything to add about the benefits or the downfalls, pitfalls of purchasing more than what we've already discussed? Anybody have anything else to contribute to that? I think everybody's had a chance to speak to the issue. So the question begets, do we have a motion to raise our level of purchase on the kilowatts? Does anybody want to make that motion? Don't everybody jump at once.
Didn't we have a motion out there?
No,
No,
No, not yet.
just, you did the host.
because the contract already says, what, 2.4 or 2.5?
Well, I think maybe to set it so that they have very clear
Yeah,
direction.
Yep, and I think that's a good idea. Dick, did you want to say something?
Well, I'm picking up vibes here that we're gonna be 2.4 megawatts, 40%. So I think maybe that would be the motion that I should make.
And I'll second that.
Okay,
Stay
we have
with
a
the
motion
40.
and a second. All those in favor of going with the 2.5 for 40%,
At 40%.
please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Me. It's a lonely spot up here, I can tell you.
So, Mr.
But-
Chairman, I guess now that you got the host figured out, you got the amount, what do you need now other than a final contract? And do you need the final contract voted on by the entire board? That's the last question, I think.
I would leave that up to the board, if they want to sign it, all the members, or they want to leave that to,
I'd like to see the final
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah,
Can we
I-
get
I
that
agree.
done by the 18th?
Absolutely.
Then we can put it on that agenda. Take a vote.
Sounds good.
is that okay?
Just get it to us in plenty of time, not the
Yeah.
night of the meeting.
Yeah.
Please.
Jane, you got that for the 18th?
Go right in my agenda.
Do we have a recycle bin for these other ones?
I know.
Yes, right in the office
See how
there,
many I
Howard.
have.
All right. I
Thank
think
you
that
very
concludes
much.
our business tonight. Congratulations,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
O'Donnell, good luck, and,
Congratulations to the town of
well,
Carver.
congratulations to
Thank
the
you,
town of
Mary.
Carver. I think that's true,
So
too.
you're gonna email me?
Gentlemen,
Paul?
thank you for joining us tonight.
He
Yes.
already emailed you tonight.
I know you guys have busy schedules.
We ain't done, guys.
No, we're not done yet.
You'll know very shortly.
You send that tonight? So I send that out tonight. So I just have to take the train in there and then.
Do you seriously have a recycle?
Oh, we recycle everything.
All right, next up is citizens' participation, and I can always count on my old pal, Mr. Belbin. All right, Bob, what brings you to us tonight?
Very quickly, Robert Spelbin, 26 Gate Street. At the last meeting, we talked about Wade Street property, and yesterday I had a meeting with the RDA in relationship to soil testing, and we developed a subcommittee. I'd like to have that on the agenda. The RDA wanted some information from the Selectmen, and I'd like to discuss that at the next meeting.
If, I would maybe suggest that the RDA get us a specific request in writing or an email as to exactly what the context is of the meeting.
No, that's fine.
That'd be easy enough to get on the agenda.
That's fine. No problem. It's pretty clear. I just don't want to get into it right now. And
Okay.
all right, but just for the agenda, it'll be quick. It won't be a big thing. All right?
Why don't you, if you send that to Mr. LaFawn, he can send it out to all of us, and we can,
No problem. Thank you.
And if you send it to Jean Bouchard, it might get done.
well, that's true, that's true. Might get
Have
done,
her
that's
email
right.
address.
All right.
I think
Thank
she'll
you,
like
Robert.
that.
Anybody else? Mr. Forrester, please come up to the microphone. Rod, I gotta tell you, you look great. How many pounds now?
60.
60. God bless you.
It's awesome.
No more insulin.
Oh, that's
Good.
wonderful.
Outstanding.
17 years injecting insulin, gone.
That's
2
fabulous.
blood pressure medicines, gone.
Super.
You gotta take pills?
It's good, yeah. I got a ways to go. They told me if I can get down to 200, that I can get rid of another blood pressure.
That's awesome.
Excellent, excellent. Keep up the good work,
Well,
okay?
keep trying.
What brings you to us tonight?
By my wife.
Oh, we know who the boss is, don't worry.
The boss, yes. Thank you for allowing me up here. What I wanted to speak to you tonight about, Mr. Chairman, was as a private citizen, not as a representative of Cranberry Village or anybody else, just for myself and my wife. I wanted to speak to you concerning the possibility of an impending taxes going up real high in Cranberry Village, and also the water issue, and how it affects me as a private citizen.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman?
And
Yeah,
I
I
just realized.
we talked about both
Well,
of those
they-
issues tonight. We
Pardon me?
we did talk about both of those issues
Well,
tonight.
yeah, I couldn't hear them all myself, but in other words, I'm not speaking off of agenda then?
No, you're not. I mean, we
Oh,
addressed them both.
okay,
but-
all right.
I would just suggest that with the tax shift remaining the same, that the only other issues that would impact the tax would be the valuation, and that would seem to be a discussion with the Board of Assessors or with Ellen Blanchard to get a sense of what implications might exist. I happen to know only because I had some discussions similar with regard to Pine Tree Village, that the assessors do not, or the deputy assessor, Ellen Blanchard, does not anticipate any significant change in the valuation of the parcel. So I'm just not too sure what information this board can provide Mr.
Right.
Forrester. to
What
make a
exactly are your
Well,
concerns, Rob?
what my concern is, we, as a community, but again, I'm speaking from my own point of view. I wasn't asked to come here. I'm coming
Sure.
for myself.
Okay.
I
All right.
just want you to know that nobody sent me
Yep.
here, or am I representing them? My concern is that when we purchased this park back in this past spring, we spent $14 million, which is an awful lot of money. And my concern is that the Board of Assessors might take that $14 million figure and say, well, now we have a park worth $14 million, and tax us on that basis, because we bought not only a park, but we bought not just a park, but a business, you know? So we may have spent that much money, but the land itself may not be valued at $14 million, because we were buying a business. So if that tax goes way up for us, it's gonna be very difficult for us.
So what you're concerned with is the assessed value of the park? Because
Exactly.
we maintained the same level of tax.
Excuse me?
We maintained the same level of tax.
Yeah, I missed
Same
I
shift
missed
on
part
it,
of it.
right. With the 1.30
Oh,
base.
so that's not something that I need to be concerned about as a citizen?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the assessed value is. I don't want to tell you that.
The information I can provide, and again, I would urge you to speak to Ellen Blanchard, because I did speak to her about that because of concern raised by some residents of Pine Tree Village
Right.
after a
It's a
meeting
sale.
we had regarding the CDBG grant reauthorization that we're gonna seek. And Ellen told me, and she's probably gonna cringe, because I'm gonna butcher this, is that the way that the parks were sold was not a true, does not represent a true market value, because it was not marketed and sold in a traditional way, so that the amount that you're concerned could set a new market value is not a legitimate comparison for the assessing purposes. So that's kind of a roundabout way of saying it, but I think that that they are sensitive to that concern also, and they do not anticipate any significant change in the value of either Cranberry Village or Pine Tree Village. But again, I think that Ellen would be the person to speak to.
You know what you might want to consider doing is maybe having a forum down at the park. in your clubhouse, maybe inviting Ellen down there and some of the officials, and let her come down and explain to everybody and put their fears at ease?
Well, I've heard, you know, from talking to other residents, you know, and I can't speak for them, but I hear them all talking about they're being afraid of the taxes going up. But I'm only speaking for myself, based on the fact that of what we paid for the park, you know, and.
Sure, well, let's get her down there and get her to talk to everybody, because, you know, I'm sure if you're concerned about that,
Yeah.
there's probably 300 other
Well,
residents down there
I'm
concerned
sure
about it,
there
too.
are. I'm sure there are. So you're suggesting that maybe if I go to my association.
Right.
Ask them to invite Ellen down.
Ask them to invite her and the Board of Assessors down, and some of us other officials will come down too and participate.
Yeah, because there are, and the other concern that many have talked about, of course, is the water situation. Is we've had this for some time with the only customers on the well. You know, it is a town property. There's quite a bit of money in the enterprise fund, my understanding. I think last figure I heard was $170,000-$80,000 or something.
I got it right here.
And I'm thinking that, you know, it may be time, because you folks are the water commissioners for Cranberry Village.
There's 185,000 in that fund.
Oh, well, I was close.
Yeah.
But you folks are the water commissioners for Cranberry Village, and maybe you would be willing to revisit, because we've asked many times, and, you know, about maybe either dropping the rates or, you know, where there's so much money in that fund, you know. That's obviously, 185,000 has come out of the money that we've paid on our water bills.
Okay, so you would like us to revisit with
Maybe
you
possibly revisit the possibility of maybe
the rates that
dropping-
are set down there?
Yeah, maybe to save us some money. We've been told by our association that we're having a brand-new meter installed on our side,
Right.
you know, because I believe they've been taking the readings from the pump house. But because our meter was broken, and they're investing in a brand-new meter to put in, so they're gonna be taking, I believe, the readings from that meter now, so.
Well, all that money in the enterprise fund is from you people.
Exactly, and it's for a case of a catastrophic event.
Right.
And I know they took some money out of it. It was never supposed to be, but they did take a percentage out to pay for I believe, for the vehicle for the North Carver.
You know, that's something we probably ought to
You
task.
should look at the whole thing.
Yeah, we ought to look at the whole thing, and we ought to task the water commissioners, who
Yes.
control the people that perform the services and the work for us, with giving us some feedback on the potential of being able to do that. Because I don't know what the expenses are for that thing down there, and I don't know what we have to keep.
Right, and exactly, and I think there has to be some, obviously a target for depreciation of the
Right.
asset, that's part of the
Right.
legal requirement. But I agree, I think you really should be relying upon, you know, the North Carver Water District as the contracted operators of that to maybe to advise and make a recommendation ultimately on what the water rate ought to be, so that's.
But I'm all for looking into that, and if
Oh,
we
I'd
can,
really
if we can
appreciate
lessen
it
the
if you
burden on
could.
the folks down there, believe me, I think that's
I
something
really
we would all.
appreciate anything you can do
Yep.
for us. And also, is there any possibility about possible expansion? I know that's been talked about many times. The whole idea of the town, when they took that well originally by eminent domain so many years ago, was to make a South Carver water system. And has there been any discussion about expanding it other than Cranberry Village?
Well, I think the goal has always been to expand the water down there, because
Because it would take relief,
the
obviously.
Deacon's property obviously is one purchaser that we can look at that would
Yeah.
take large quantities. But, you know, it involves a lot, because you're traversing the properties of other people and
Well,
other.
getting the water to
companies.
them, you know,
Right.
it's,
Actually,
Mr. Piper always wanted to bring a pipe over from there to Pine Tree, but
Yep.
the land in between he doesn't own, and,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, now that the park's changed ownership, maybe that'll have an impact on that.
maybe so.
And that's something the North Carver Water District can look into, and,
Well, I think they just told us tonight that the Deacon's property, they're gonna be buying
Oh,
water from the North Carver Water District, so it
Yes.
probably won't be from your system.
That's a good thing, because it's gonna help, obviously, them defray some of the costs. They're running a deficit, right?
I don't know whether they're pumping it down there or they're pumping it up here. I think it's up here.
It is up here.
Yeah, the North
Yeah,
Carver.
Paul mentioned he was gonna
So
put
you
in a.
really will not realize a benefit from that at this,
Pardon?
you won't realize a benefit from
No,
that at
we
this
won't,
time.
we
Yeah.
won't. I know, but they'll be not having to spend so much.
How about allowing us an opportunity to put the North Carver Water District and the commissioners and their experts to work looking at this project?
That would be great.
And then we can reschedule it for a future selectmen's meeting, and the representatives can come down from the village and everything, yourself, and we'll hash it out. and see
Well,
what we do.
I'm not on any committees or
It's okay.
boards down there, but I will speak to some people and tell them that I spoke to you
Sure.
folks, and that it's suggested by you folks that they get in touch with you, or Ellen Blanchard and the Board of Assessors to come down and explain, and
Right.
and maybe it'll calm nerves down there, because people are really frightened. You know, we moved there, and we moved to Carver because, especially down there, because it was affordable.
Yeah.
You know, and it's becoming very, almost unaffordable. We pay, even though we're resident-owned, we still pay an extremely high land fee. We're still rating at $526 a month.
Okay.
You know, and it's,
So do that.
at least it's stable.
Have the board set something up, invite Ellen and some of us officials down, we'll come down and
Oh,
we'll address
great,
everybody.
that's wonderful.
And we'll get something moving on the other issue, okay?
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Could I-
allowing me to speak this
Could I
evening.
just add
Sure.
a quick
Oh,
thing?
you have a question?
Yes,
Thank you.
Sarah.
Thank you. Mr. Forrester, just in case you were unaware too, the Cranberry Village group, I'm not sure exactly whether
It's
they're.
Cranberry Village Residents Association.
Okay, so some of the fellows down there have been working on trying to come up with a way to find the water leaks down there.
Yes, that's correct.
And we did steer them towards the Rural Water Association, which detects leaks for free.
I heard them
Yep.
speak of that in a meeting. They have a
Yep.
machine that
Mhm.
is like a sonar, and it can go
Yep,
look right
it's-
underneath.
It's like a
and
Geiger counter or something.
and
So,
can find them, yeah.
right, so I think that you will probably find there will be significant savings,
Oh, that would
just
be
locating
wonderful.
the leaks and fixing them. So, I mean, that's kind of a work in progress.
That's great. I wasn't aware of that. I knew it was coming, but I
Yep.
didn't know it was in progress. But again, thank you so much for allowing me to speak this
You're
evening.
welcome, Rod. Keep up the good work.
We will. Thank
look
very
great.
much. Have a good evening.
Okay. Any further citizens' participation? Ms. Padavani. Mrs. Padavani. Excusez-moi.
Dawn Padavani, 82 Rochester Road. I just wanted to update the board on the food drive that Shaw's is doing. I talked to Dan McNeil and Gary Dussault. Those are the two men who have put it together for us. And as of last week, they have donated $2,600 worth of food to the Carver Food Pantry. And they just do a great job. They put it in the flyer every week. You can purchase $5, $10, or $15 bags and put it in the bin. But these guys have been great. They have notices on every register. They have signs in the windows. They've put big bins on each doorway. And they're just doing a great job.
And the bags are right out there on the table.
Yep.
They provide a description of the items that are in it, and
Yep.
there's multiple choices between
And they
what?
keep track of
5,
everything they donate.
10, and
15.
$15 bags.
All pre.
What do you think, Ms. Bouchard? A letter of appreciation maybe to the management down there?
While we're on that subject,
Okay.
what, a good thing would be also coming from the Council on Aging also, but the other thing is I don't know if anyone realized it, but the food pantry at the Council on Aging is gonna start being opening Saturday mornings to be able to accommodate those working families, so forth
During the
and so
week.
on, that can't go there during the week while it's open. The other thing is the council just received, the food pantry just received another large donation from the Plymouth Lions Club, and I think they need a cash donation. Earlier this year, they donated $5,000, and I believe this last donation was $1,000.
Wow.
And I think a thank you needs to go out to the Plymouth Lions Club also.
Well, how about that then? Add that to it, and maybe we can do a couple letters of appreciation and get somebody in there to.
So,
Yep.
to those kind of organizations, so.
Well, you know, as I said when we started off the meeting, I want to commend everybody because all the feedback I'm getting is that there were plenty of donations and that the different organizations were able to help a significant amount of people. And we still got to get through Christmas, though. So if everybody out there will just kindly remember that. Don, if you could give those names to Jean.
I will.
And we'll do something appropriate. Maybe we can invite them to a meeting one night and publicly recognize them and show our appreciation as a community.
They've been very helpful.
One other little minor thing, because we saw Carol today, I think today or yesterday or something like that. I do
Jean, you
wanna
probably
say,
ought to
though-
speak into the mic, though.
Do want to say, though, too, is for our Thanksgiving baskets that went out from the Council on Aging, Shaw sold the turkeys to us at cost, which was really great of them, so. The more we can patronize stores and businesses like this,
Absolutely.
that give back to the community.
And they're
I think it's
hurting.
great,
Shaw's
so.
is hurting, so
Yeah.
to do that, oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, by the way. I know you were very actively involved in that. Thank you. Any further citizens' participation? Everybody looks as tired as I feel. All right. Let me see. Town administrator notes.
Couple quick things. Number one, don't forget, we've got a lot of licenses to sign in the office, so over the next week or so, if you have the chance to come on in and get your quill going. Second, I'm not gonna belabor it tonight, but you've probably heard that there is some proposal by the governor to reduce incrementally local aid as part of balancing the existing year's budget. It's still too early to know what kind of legislative support will be necessary for some of those cuts, and exactly what the impact is gonna be per community, so it's a little early to determine whether or not, there's not much to report yet, other than keep an eye on that, and certainly we'll be working with our legislators to see what we can do to keep local government,
Are those so-called the 9C cuts?
Right, but there's only so much within that the governor has control over that has to do with local government. So there are other local aid accounts that he's seeking to have, make cuts in, get legislative approval or legislative, to make cuts in.
And
some
that
of those
happened
others.
10 years ago. Didn't it? 2002?
I forget the exact
Yeah.
year, but, yeah, so, but just to keep an eye on that. And the other thing is, we do have a interim town accountant services. We did send out three requests for proposals. We only got one, in a timely manner, I'd say. And he started yesterday. He's not gonna be in every day, but if you have any questions about that, we'll fill you in later. But he's known to us, he's somebody who's worked with us before as a contractor, so we feel we're in good hands. And the closing date for the town accountant's position right now is the 21st of December, and obviously, I know Jack and Helen will be working with me on that as we go forward. So that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Selectmen's notes. Anybody like to kick it off? Don't everybody jump up at once. Dick, go ahead.
Yep. I just had one item. On the 26th of November, a week ago Monday, I attended a very important meeting of the state DPW and the Carver DPW on a review of the tentative plans for the rebuild of Route 58 here in Carver. The rebuild will go from Purchase Street lights through center of town to South Meadow Road. This project includes things like sidewalks from Purchase Street to South Meadow Road, new lighting, a total new configuration to the entrances and exits for the town hall and the library, and many other changes. This project is momentous for us here in Carver. The meeting was meant to allow town officials and citizens to have input on plans for the project. There were a number of people who have worked on the project in attendance. Bill Hallinan, our superintendent of the DPW, has diligently been chasing down this project for many years. He deserves a great deal of credit for moving this project forward. Several others include Sarah Hewins, Jack Hunter, and Peter Donnelly were at the meeting and have contributed throughout the past years fighting for this project. There are also several citizens who contribute good, solid suggestions to the state engineers. All in all, it was a good meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Next. Helen?
I don't have much tonight. I'm just wondering if we should put it on the agenda for one of the next coming meetings about the audit committee and getting that going again.
Yes. Yeah. My intent was to bring it up at the next meeting and
Okay,
kick it off in January.
okay.
Get through the
To
holidays and then-
reestablish it?
Yeah, to reestablish it. So, why don't we put it on the agenda for discussion on the 18th?
Thought you were gonna get us through the holidays, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we are. And what we'll do is we'll just discuss it and reschedule it and talk about the parameters and what we want to do. Is that all, Helen?
That's it.
Sarah?
Thank you. I too wanted to mention the Route 58 upgrade that Mass Highway is going to do. It's really a terrific project for the town, and I think that the storm drainage upgrade and the sidewalks alone are just fantastic. Some of that storm drainage upgrade is just not always necessarily possible with the funding that we get, and the DPW actually does a terrific job to simply cleaning them, probably more than most towns around. I went to a stormwater workshop with the DEP not long ago, and Carver was rated really high on their list. I mean, they really got kudos from the DPW for the extra care they take with our storm drains. But a lot of them still need pre-treatment. They're old drains, so any of this kind of upgrade is terrific for our water quality, obviously. And I too wanted to commend Bill. He's worked hard on this for a long time. The last thing I just wanted to let people know that the Girl Scouts in town are having a tree lighting service at the Girl Scout Triangle up the street this coming Sunday, December the 9th, from 3:30 to 4:30. And I believe they're going to have refreshments and sing, too. So this should be fun. Hope you can come.
Less than $50 worth per individual, so you don't
It's
have any
free.
ethical
It's
problems.
free.
Jack?
I just want to remind people to come to the special town meeting on Thursday, 7 o'clock at Carver High School. We need a good turnout so we can wrap up all the business that we need to. And second thing is that when we did the tax classification here, and we pushed a lot of the burden onto the little businesses here in town, and with it being the holiday season, people should really think about patronizing these businesses, even if they don't go there and eat or buy something, that they could buy a gift card, because they picked up a good portion of the taxes. And the last thing is, when you do come to town meeting, maybe you could bring a food item for the food pantry.
Thank you, Jack. I think, speaking of the small businesses in town and recommending that you patronize them, you have to know that this money is cycled through the community, and it comes back to us in various ways, because all these people donate to all the causes in town, and that's what keeps these volunteer organizations going. You know, I mean, your Little League, your Girl Scouts, your Boy Scouts, everything. So, I mean, you know, whatever you can do to help the merchants in our town be successful is going to improve our community that much more overall. So, please, please, give them your business.
Can I
Go ahead,
just,
Helen.
you just triggered the, one last thing, and I apologize, but I've had continued office hours on Tuesday evenings from 6:30 to 7, and my summer hours had stopped, but I've reestablished winter hours now, and I'll be starting at the Frosty Dog from 11 to 12 every Saturday, starting this Saturday. So talking about businesses, come on down, and even if you don't want to come down and see me, you know, he has the mini golf and the pool tables and lots of good food there, so that starts this Saturday.
Is that going to be every Saturday?
Yes.
Wow. This coffee.
And
I'll be there earlier.
lastly, I just want to remind everybody to keep servicemen and women serving around the world in their thoughts and prayers. God bless you. God bless the citizens of Carver, and God bless the United States of America. And on that note, we're going to take a 2-minute break before we come back and go into executive session. Thank you very much for your participation tonight.
Do we need a break?